Chapter 1, Crushing the Heart on Lingyun Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios, swoosh. A cold light appeared all of a sudden along with the sound of bones and flesh being chopped apart. Blood. Bright red blood was splashed across the white snow. Behind the splash of blood stood a gorgeous woman, holding a sharp sword in hand. She stared coldly at the enemies that she slaughtered. No emotion could be sensed from her pale and calm eyes. The woman was in a long and thin layered dress in winter. Her pure white dress had been dyed a crimson color by the endless blood. Beside her feet, nearly 100 corpses stacked on top of the white snow. The blood that flowed out of corpses had also dyed the snow around her red. However, this was not the end yet. The woman raised her eyes slightly. On her pale but beautiful face, a pair of deep eyes took a glimpse towards hay. Tens of thousands of people gathered in a circle hundreds of miles away, with everyone there staring at her in a greedy way. Scanning through the faces one by one, the woman suddenly raised her lips to an angle, displaying her evilness. She raised her hand and used one of the fingers to wipe off a drop of warm blood sliding down the corner of her lips. The pale lips were covered by a trace of redness, bright but sinister. 79 people, who would be the next one? Ye Kunthing had never thought that one day she would become the enemy of the rest of the world and be attacked by tens of thousands of people on Lingyun Cliff. All these could be credited to the heart of the demon god. Located in her chest, with anomalies in the sky, the demon god was born. His birth signaled the end of the sky and the death of the earth. Ye Kunthing was not the demon god. She had no idea why a heart which belonged to the demon god would appear in her body. However, all of these did not matter anymore. The people in front of her all came for the heart of the demon god, which would grant them the unimaginable power, one that seemed able to reverse the sky. No one cared whether Ye Kunthing would be alive or dead. In the eyes of these people, she was just the container of the heart of a demon god. How ridiculous this was. Ye Kunthing straightened her body slightly. Her bare feet stepped on top of the soft snow, allowing the blood in the snow to soak her feet. She tilted her head and raised her sword all of a sudden. The tip of the sword, with a drop of blood, was pointed towards a well-dressed woman standing at the center of the crowd. Ye, you don't bother to send these useless people up anymore. If you want the heart of the demon god, you have to take it by yourself. Ye Kunthing was laughing, but deep in her eyes, there were not any traces of a smile. Back then, Ye Yu was also the genius girl of the Ye family. Just because Ye Kunthang's spirit root was of the best quality, which was extremely rare, Ye Yu ripped apart Kunthang's stomach with her own hands to dig out the spirit root for her own use. It had been 300 years since that day. Ye Yu took Kunthang's spirit root and stole the life that once belonged to Kunthing. She thus became a well-known genius. Now, she had already become the great Empress Paragon. However, Ye Kunthing faced countless obstacles and nearly died many times in her life without her spirit root. It took her immense effort to reach the Paragon level. However, she was trapped on top of the Lingyun mountain by Ye Yu for the heart of the demon god. Ye Yu frowned as her name was called by Ye Kunthing. Her eyes were full of disdain. To her, Ye Kunthing was just an ant struggling for survival, one who did not even qualify for Ye Yu to kill using her own hands. Don't let her escape. You must dig out a heart of the demon god entirely for me. Ye Yu commanded to the bodyguard beside her. Everyone surrounding the Lingyun cliff immediately crowded around Ye Kunthing. A besiege by 10,000 people marked the absolute failure of Ye Kunthing, even if she had some superpowers. Behind her was the cliff that one could not even see the end of it. In front of her was the besiege by 10,000 people. However, Ye Kunthang's face showed no trace of fear or awe. For this life of hers, her father and second uncle were murdered. Senior brother Yoon sacrificed himself to save her. Her master's life was shortened just to protect her. Ye Kunthing closed her eyes slowly. Looking back through her life, she recalled countless regrets. People who loved her had already passed away. Now, with her enemy in front of her, she would not allow Ye Yu to get what she wanted, even if Ye Kunthing had to destroy the heart of the demon god herself. The moment everyone dashed towards Ye Kunthing, she raised her hand suddenly and stabbed her own chest using her arched fingers. She crushed the heart of the demon god abruptly, the heart that everyone was longing for. Boom! The instant Ye Kunthing crushed the heart. A loud explosion sounded from the Lingyun cliff. The heart of the demon god was destroyed. Streaks of aura were rushing between the sky and the earth. Lingyun cliff was surrounded by storm wind. The earth trembled and the mountain swayed. At the same time, huge cracks suddenly appeared on the enormous cliff. Ye Yu and her fellow people did not bother with anything besides escaping from the path where they came from hurriedly. When the wind howled, the earth trembled and the mountains swayed. Ye Kunthing, lying in a pool of blood, fell into the endless chasm along with a huge cracked stone. However, at that instant, a golden light suddenly came from the sky and dashed towards the falling Ye Kunthing. Time seemed to stop in that second. The huge falling stone was suspended in the mid-air, and a shadow landed on that huge stone. It was a man with astonishing beauty. The white clothes he wore were swinging in the storm wind. He just stood beside the body of Ye Kunthing quietly, staring at the wound on her chest that was ripped apart by herself. He could feel a trace of a familiar aura, disappearing gradually from the wound. Found it. His pleasant and deep voice was covered by the wind. The man slowly squatted down and touched the bloody wound, gently using his long and elegant fingers. Wisps of aura were emerging continuously from Ye Kunthing's wound and slowly into the man's palm, forming a translucent heart. Just as the heart was about to condense into a solid form, the aura suddenly dispersed. The translucent heart dispersed into particles, scattered around the body of Ye Kunthing, and disappeared. A trace of blackish green sparkled in the man's deep eyes. I see. The man's finger pointed at the area between Ye Kunthing's brows. The next moment, a streak of golden light diffused into the Reborn. 1. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios' pain was spreading around Ye Kunthing's body quietly. Some kind of unbearable pain seemed to engulf her. She opened her eyes suddenly, but she was no longer at the snow-covered peaks of Lingyun Mountain. Tang Tang, you're finally awake. Ye Kunthing heard a tiring voice beside her ears. Ye Kunthing was shocked when she heard the voice. This voice. How many years had it been since she last heard this voice? Ye Kunthing instinctively shifted her sight to see a middle-aged man with a haggard face standing beside her. Quote, Father. Ye Kunthing opened her eyes wide, unable to believe what she had witnessed. The middle-aged man helped her as she struggled to get up. Ye Ling, master of the Ye family clan, stared at his daughter and said worriedly, Tang Tang, your body hasn't recovered since your spirit root was broken. You need to rest more. Don't rush to get up. Ye Kunthing's eyes opened wider. She was extremely astonished by the situation in front of her. What happened? I destroyed my own heart on the peaks of Lingyun Mountain. Why am I alive, Father? I thought Father was killed by the great elder 300 years ago. Now, how? A series of questions arose in Ye Kunthing's brain continuously. Only after taking a glance at her surroundings, she realized that she was in her own room of the Ye family, a room that ceased to exist a few hundred years ago. Tang Tang, as your father, I will still take care of you in future even if you have lost your spirit root. You don't need to care about what others say. Just rest well and recover soon. Ye Ling did not give much thought to the abnormal behavior of Ye Kunthing. He thought that Ye Kunthing was just too shocked to pay attention to him. Only Ye Kunthing knew how shocked she was internally in that moment. She had revived and returned back to the Ye family 300 years ago. Looking at her father in front of her, Ye Kunthing's eyes were filled with tears. 300 years ago, in her previous life, she was weak and useless. She could only helplessly witness her father and her beloved second elder being killed by Ye Yu's grandfather, the great elder of the Ye family. However, she could not believe that she was back now. Ye Kunthing sat up slightly, staring at her father whose face was full of concern. She tried to calm herself down. At the same period of time in her previous life, her spirit root had just been snatched by Ye Yu. On top of that, the great elder threatened that her father would be in danger if she ever told him the truth. As a result, she could only cover up the truth by saying that she broke her spirit root by herself. In her previous life, Ye Kunthing thought that she would be able to ensure her father's safety as long as she could tolerate the humiliation. However, she did not know that the great elder had already taken most of the power of the Ye family and had secretly laced her father's meals with chronic poison. The great elder not only encouraged Ye Yu to snatch Ye Kanthang's spirit root but also killed Ye Ling to take over the official master position of the Ye family. She could only blame herself for being too naive in her previous life. Tang Tang, since you are up, drink the medicine before it gets cold. Ye Ling did not notice the changes in her daughter at all. Instead, he caringly offered her the medicine that was still warm. Ye Kanthing took the medicine her father handed over to her. Staring at the reflection of herself in the medicine, she went blank for a second. The girl in the reflection had delicate features, but there was a red palm-sized birthmark on her face which used to be white and clean. The birthmark which stretched across half of her face totally ruined her original beauty, even making her appear extremely ugly. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Ye Kanthing had not seen this face for a few hundred years. She remembered that in her previous life she had felt inferior as a result of her birthmark. She could only wear a veil all day long to cover the ugly face. However, after a long time, she realized that she was not born with the birthmark, but it was instead the result of someone purposely sealing her original appearance. Thinking about such, Ye Kanthing could not help but smile. She drank her medicine in one gulp. As the bitterness entered her throat, she swore secretly that since she was given a chance to be reborn, she must cut off all the regrets of her previous life. She would never let anyone hurt her father or anyone around her. Ye Ling sighed softly as he watched Ye Kanthing finish her medicine. The Ye family now was very unstable. Ever since the second elder, who always supported him, went into seclusion, the ambitious great elder took the chance to take over the entire Ye family. Ever though Ye Ling was still the master of the Ye family, he had already lost all of his power. However, he felt relieved as long as Tang Tang was safe and sound. You should rest more after drinking the medicine. Ye Ling's eyes were full of concern. Ever since his wife passed away, he treasured his precious daughter even more and focused mainly on taking care of her. Ye Kanthing nodded. All her suffering from the 300 years in her previous life were incomparable to the care from her loved ones. She felt extremely lucky to be able to meet Ye Ling again. When Ye Ling was about to leave Ye Kanthang's room, a servant's voice was heard outside the door. Master, the second junior master of the Duan family, Duan Tianrao, is here to visit the young lady. He's at the front hall now. Ye Ling smiled in relief after hearing the servant's words. He then turned his head and looked towards Ye Kanthing, who sat on her bed. Quote, Tang Tang, Tianrao cares for you. You see, he came to visit you this early, as he knew you weren't feeling well. I feel relieved to let him take care of you in the future, Ye Ling said. Duan Tianrao was the second junior master of the Duan family in Lin Town. He was also the fiancé of Ye Kanthing. The two of them were engaged when they were young. Duan Tianrao was waiting for Ye Kintang to turn 16 when he would then marry Ye Kanthing. As for this son-in-law, Ye Ling was quite satisfied with him. He was delighted that Duan Tianrao came to visit Ye Kanthing this early. Unfortunately, Ye Kanthang's face showed no trace of shyness a normal girl would have. There was only sarcasm in her big and clear eyes. Duan Tianrao, how could she forget about him? Not long after the news of her broken spirit root was spread out in her previous life, Duan Tianrao rushed over to the Ye family. However, her fiancé was not there to comfort her and instead just tried to make things worse. Ye Kanthing closed her eyes slowly. The images of Duan Tianrao when he arrived at the Ye family in her previous life appeared in her brain. Ye Kanthing wore the veil all day long. There were rumors spreading in Lin Town in her previous life that she was extremely ugly. This was the reason why Ye Kanthing was too afraid to step out of the Ye family. Even when she stayed within the Ye family, she wore the veil all the time. Even her long-engaged fiancé, Duan Tianrao, had not seen her face under the veil before. Ye Kanthing used to think that Duan Tianrao treated her sincerely. However, after her spirit root was broken, Duan Tianrao came not to comfort her but instead to annul the engagement, choosing another woman over her. Tang Tang, Ye Ling was concerned as he saw that Ye Kanthang's Chapter 4, expressions
Reborn,
were
3.
odd. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Ye Kanthing opened her eyes dazedly. She felt the care and warmth from Ye Ling's worried gaze. Yes, she thought, why did she need to bother with those bastards? She should only protect those people who cared for her in this life. Father, I'll dress up soon. You can go over first, Ye Kangting smiled slightly. A tall and handsome man was sitting on the chair in the hall of the Ye family. Beside him was a beautiful and graceful girl, Duan Lang, about the matters we are going to discuss today. The girl frowned slightly. She puckered her lips expressing her concern. After seeing such a lovely expression on the girl's face, Duan Tianrao, who was sitting there, could not help but raise his hand to cover her white hands. Zan, you don't need to worry. I'll be here for you. Duan Tianrao's voice was very gentle when comforting the girl. Ye Zan was an orphan adopted by Ye Ling at a very young age. She had been raised by the Ye family ever since she was a baby. 16 years had passed, and though she was an adopted daughter, she still received the same education as the rest of the Ye family's daughters. Growing up, her appearance was not inferior to those of the other daughters of the Ye family. Ye Zan's beauty was the reason why she was able to capture Duan Tianrao's attention. Ye Zan lowered her eyes filled with sadness and anxiety. I owe the Ye family a debt of gratitude for raising me up. I am scared that this matter might. Duan Tianrao was heartbroken seeing how anxious Ye Zan was. He held her hand tightly and said, Zan, you're the adopted daughter of the Ye family, and it's true that you owe them the debt of gratitude. However, our matter has nothing to do with that gratitude. Just rest assured, I'll be there for you no matter what happens. Ye Zan nodded her head. A faint smile could be captured in her eyes as she noticed how much Duan Tianrao cared for her. At that moment, Ye Ling walked into the hall. Ye Zan and Duan Tianrao immediately let go of each other's hands. Duan Tianrao stood up and greeted Ye Ling. Uncle Ye, father. Ye Zan also stood up. Ye Ling just nodded slightly and looked towards Duan Tianrao in front of him. Ye Kangting was the only daughter of Ye Ling. She had a weak body since she was born. She was even ashamed of herself due to her birthmark. Thus, it had always been Ye Ling's greatest aspiration to find a husband who would take care of his daughter. Ling Town had, in total, 3 large family clans. Apart from the Ye family, the Duan family and the Si family were the other 2 large family clans. The marriage alliance with the Duan family was based on equal social status, and Ye Ling would be relieved to hand over Ye Kangting to Duan Tianrao as Tianrao cared for Kangting all the time. Tianrao, Tang is still dressing up. She'll come over soon. Just wait for a while. Ye Ling smiled. A trace of uneasiness appeared in Duan Tianrao's eyes, but he did not show anything on his face. He exchanged glances with Ye Zan beside him secretly. No need to rush, he said and smiled. He then nodded towards the servant beside him. The servant immediately placed a few well-decorated boxes onto a table beside Ye Ling. I heard that Tang's spirit root was broken, devitalizing her. Thus, I prepared some tonics including the Hanyung pills which will help Tang to regain her vigor. The pills are very effective in terms of healing power. Duan Tianrao spoke gently. The Hanyung pills are difficult to find. I was about to look for them, but you have already brought them over. I'm very relieved to see that you truly love her. Ye Ling felt pleased. This is to be expected from a fiancé. Duan Tianrao. The engagement. 1. Translator, Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. Ye Zan held her fists tightly as she watched the Hanyung pills being sent to Ye Ling. However, remembering what Duan Tianrao said, all her worries were gone, and she smiled gently. How's Tang these past few days? Duan Tianrao's eyes flickered. It seemed that he was waiting for the right opportunity to open up. Ye Ling did not sense anything. He sighed and said, how could she feel alright after her spirit root was broken? The child is always very considerate. She never shows any signs of pain in front of me. It's very heartbreaking to see her in this state. Ye Ling raised his eyes and said to Duan Tianrao, you are Tang's fiancé, and the 2 of you grew up together. It'd be great if you could spend more time with her. I'm sure she would be more relaxed. Duan Tianrao smiled but did not respond directly. Ye Zan, who was standing at the side, lowered her head slightly. She pulled Duan Tianrao's sleeve discreetly, and in response Duan Tianrao gently patted her hand to comfort her. At the same moment, a skinny silhouette slowly entered the hall and greeted Ye Ling, who sat on the main chair. Father. Seeing Ye Kangting, Ye Ling's eyes reflected deep love and care. Quote, Tang, you haven't recovered fully yet. Sit down first, Ye Kangting, who was wearing the veil, sat beside Ye Ling quietly. However, her eyes did not even look towards the direction of Duan Tianrao, who sat below. Ye Ling did not notice how indifferent Ye Kunthing was towards Duan Tianrao. He smiled and pointed towards the things on the table to show Ye Kunthing. Tang Tang, all these are given by Tianrao to help you recover. He even brought Hanyung pills for you. He truly does care for you. Ye Kunthang took a glimpse towards the tonics stacked on top of each other like a mountain on the table. She then glanced at Duan Tianrao, who sat below. Her sight was extremely cold, without any expression of fascination or gratitude. Thank you, young Master Duan, for your effort. Ye Kunthing spoke lightly. Young Master Duan. The other three all froze for a second. In the past, when Ye Kunthing met Duan Tianrao, she always called him Brother Duan. Why did she distance herself? Today, Duan Tianrao frowned slightly. However, remembering the purpose of his visit today, he did not bother anymore. Ye Ling thought that Ye Kunthing was in a bad mood as her spirit root was broken. So he also did not bother to find out the reason. You'll be 16 years old in half a year's time. I think we can proceed with your marriage with Tianrao. When you feel better, I'll discuss your marriage with the master of the Duan family clan. Is that fine? Ye Ling did not initially intend to have Ye Kunthing marry so soon, but now that her spirit root was broken, it was very unlikely for her to have any improvement in wushu. The Ye family had already been controlled by the great elder. And even as the master of the family clan, he no longer held much power. It would be better for Ye Kunthing to marry Duan Tianrao early. He would be more relieved knowing that Duan Tianrao would be able to take care of her. The faces of the three people who were present suddenly changed upon hearing what Ye Ling said. Especially for Ye Zun, her body stiffened, and Duan Tianrao's facial expression darkened. Only Ye Kunthing still sat properly on the chair. Her sight was cold, and she was sharp enough to capture the changes in Ye Zun and Duan Tianrao. Uncle Ye, Duan Tianrao stepped forward suddenly. Today, I came over to tell you about the engagement. 2. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios, yes? What is it? Ye Ling asked. Duan Tianrao remained silent for a while and said, besides visiting Tang Tang, I came here today for another reason. It's because I think the marriage between Tang Tang and I should be annulled. The smile on Ye Ling's face disappeared immediately after Duan Tianrao finished his sentence. Tianrao, what do you mean by that? Duan Tianrao took a breath and decided to confess everything. I grew up together with Tang Tang, so, of course, we are close with each other. However, I can only view her as my sister and not as a couple. I have told my father about it, and he also agrees that we should not push for such a marriage. Hence, I'm here today to annul the engagement, Duan Tianrao said. What? Ye Ling slammed his fist loudly on the table. He stared at Duan Tianrao in anger. You want to annul the engagement? Do you know what you are talking about? Quote. Ye Ling was furious. The engagement between Duan Tianrao and Ye Kunthing was made when they were young, and everyone in Lin Town knew about that. Now, Duan Tianrao wanted to annul the engagement. If the news spreads out, his daughter would be viewed as a joke in other people's eyes. Duan Tianrao had already made up his mind. He stared at Ye Ling, who was raging, and carried on. Uncle Ye, a few days ago, my father had confirmed that I would be the heir of the Duan family clan. I will become the master of the clan, and my wife will be the mistress of the Duan family. Duan Tianrao looked towards Ye Kunthing and her veil. His sight showed a sense of aversion. Tang Tang never shows her real face to others. Furthermore, her spirit root was broken and she can't improve her wushu anymore. Duan family is one of the 3 great family clans in Lin Town. The mistress must be able to take on heavy responsibilities. The Tang Tang now, I fear, is not suitable for this role anymore. Duan Tianrao sounded very pleasant and logical, but every word he said to Ye Ling pierced his heart like a sword. Duan Tianrao, do you know what you just said? Your engagement with Tang Tang was confirmed long ago. Now you want to annul it? Ye Ling reproached. Duan Tianrao frowned and raised his eyes slightly. Uncle Ye, I did have an engagement with Ye Kunthing. However, what kind of spirit root did she have back then, and what kind is it now? Uncle Ye, you really want me to marry a woman who has no spirit root and no appearance? Ye Ling trembled with anger. He never expected that Duan Tianrao was this kind of person. Duan Tianrao did not change his mind at all even after witnessing Ye Ling's anger. He turned and looked towards Ye Kangting, who remained silent all along. Tang Tang, I think I treated you fairly enough in the past now, you should think from my perspective. Even though others in the town said you were extremely ugly, I didn't request to annul the engagement back then. However, now that your spirit root is broken, do you still want to marry me forcefully? How am I supposed to explain this to the Duan family? I can tolerate it if my wife is ugly, but I can't bring a useless mistress for the Duan family. Every word that came out of Duan Tianrao hurt. From the beginning to the end, he only valued Ye Kangtang's spirit root. When Ye Kangting had Pei, supreme great spirit root, he could tolerate her ugliness. However, now that her spirit root was destroyed, why did he still need to accept her? Ye Ling stood up in anger and roared. Duan Tianrao, shut up, I was blind to allow the engagement between you and Tang Tang. I never knew you that you were this kind of abhorrent person. Annul the engagement. 3. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios, Uncle Ye, you also the master of your family clan. Is there anything wrong with what I just said? Duan Tianrao finally removed the entirety of his disguise. He knew long ago from Ye Zan that the great elder was the one with power and that Ye Ling was only the master of the family clan only in name. Ye Ling trembled with rage. Ye Zan, who was standing aside, stepped forward. A slight smile appeared on her face, but she quickly disguised it with an expression full of concern. Father, please do not be angry. Do not be angry. How can I not be angry? Ye Ling questioned. Ye Zan looked at the tall and strong Duan Tianrao gently and said, young Master Duan has his own reasons. As the next family master, he needs to care for the prestige of the family. Father, I hope you will understand. Tang is still young. She will be able to find a good husband in the future. What did you just say? Ye Ling stared at her adopted daughter unbelievably. He could not believe that she would speak up. For Duan Tianrao, Ye Zan stared at the furious Ye Ling and then looked towards Ye Kangting, who had not spoken at all. She took out the Hanyung pills that Duan Tianrao gave her and handed them over to Ye Kangting. Tang, young Master Duan cares for you. He even brought the Hanyung pills to help you recover, Ye Zan said as coldness sparkled in her eyes. She was very sure that Ye Kangting loved Duan Tianrao and that she definitely would not agree to the annulment. Ye Kangting would not accept the Hanyung pills. She might even beg Duan Tianrao to keep the engagement. Eventually, Hanyung pills would return to Ye Zan's hands. Even though Ye Zan held such beliefs, she still pretended to persuade Ye Kangting sweetly. Ye Kangting stared at Ye Zan coldly, watching her fake concern. She smiled coldly in her heart. Ye Kangting saw through Ye Zan's actions and could read her thoughts. In her previous life, Ye Kangting was exactly the type of person Ye Zan thought she was. When she knew that Duan Tianrao wanted to annul the engagement, not only did she reject the tonics and Hanyung pills that Duan Tianrao gave her, but she also begged him not to abandon her, throwing away her dignity and pride. She did not care about the prestige of Ye family and Ye Ling, and she had placed herself in an inferior position. Ye Ling even vomited blood as he was too furious. However, this time, suddenly, a smile appeared on Ye Kangtang's lips. Just as Ye Zan was feeling very confident of her analysis, Ye Kangting extended her arm and took over the Hanyung pills. Then, I will thank young Master Duan for his kindness. She then placed the Hanyung pills into her own space ring, a dimensional storage item. The whole process happened smoothly. While Ye Ling was still enraged, Ye Kangting suddenly spoke up for the first time. Father, I think young Master Duan has a point as well. The three people in the hall were all taken aback by Ye Kangtang's words. Duan Tianrao stared at Ye Kangting in surprise. He thought that the moment he asked to annul Pei engagement, Ye Kangting definitely would be crying and begging. He did not expect that she would say such words. Ye Ling was also dumbfounded. He looked at his daughter with great concern as he was scared that she was too upset by the news. Tang, what did you say? Ye Kangting sat on the chair and stared at the three astonished people. She said slowly, as a girl, of course I understand it is embarrassing for my engagement to be annulled. However, since young Master Duan is the heir of the family master, it's understandable that he needs to focus on the prestige of his Family. I am not suitable to be the mistress of the Duan transformation. 1. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios Ye Kanthing paused and continued. Father, think about it again. I've always been weak. When I had the spirit root, my ability could be considered high. No one would dare to challenge me. However, now I lost my spirit root. If I still request to marry over to the Duan family, it would make their whole family unsatisfied. I don't have the ability to defend myself anymore. Why do I have to go over just to be mocked by others? Even though young Master Duan's words were not pleasant to listen to, he said them for my own good. Ye Kanthing sounded very calm. None of her sentences were said out of anger. It seemed that she really did believe whatever Duan Tianrao explained. Ye Ling was stunned. He did not imagine that Ye Kanthing would say so. Previously, it was the Duan family who came over to ask for the engagement when Ye Kanthang's spirit root just emerged. Now, right after Tang Tang's spirit root was broken, they claimed that her daughter was extremely ugly. It seemed as if it was the Ye family who was forcing an engagement with the Duan family. Duan Tianrao smiled after hearing what Ye Kanthing just said. He was pleased that she understood the situation. Ye Zun also felt pleased that Ye Kanthing knew what was the right choice to make. Ye Ling's face was still clouded. Duan Tianrao continued to speak as Ye Ling remained silent for quite a while. It's rare that Tang Tang is so sensible. Uncle Ye, a few days later, it'll be the day for the greatest families of Lin Town to gather and worship the heavenly Tao. I am the heir of the Duan family, so my fiancé needs to go with me to turn the heaven spinning wheel. Only a person with a Kanate level 5 ability or above can turn that wheel. Do you think Tang Tang's current ability will be enough for her to turn that wheel? Duan Tianrao said. If she can't, the prestige of Duan family will be damaged in front of everyone. Get out. Now. Slamming the table violently, Ye Ling shouted at Duan Tianrao and pointed towards the main door. Enough was enough. He would not allow this bastard to continue to humiliate his daughter. He would not allow the Duan family to humiliate his daughter in such a way. Duan Tianrao frowned but decided to keep quiet after seeing how furious Ye Ling was. Uncle Ye, you should figure this matter out by yourself. Whether you agree or not, I am going to annul the engagement in front of everyone in a few days when we worship the heavenly Tao. I shall leave now. Duan Tianrao waved his hand insincerely and turned around. Take all your things back. Our Ye family does not need such rubbish, Ye Ling said. Duan Tianrao's mouth twitched. He signaled his servants to bring everything out and walked out of the hall. Ye Zun immediately followed up and said to Ye Ling, Father, we cannot forget our manners. I shall go and send young Master Duan off. Ye Zun caught up with Duan Tianrao without waiting for Ye Ling's reply. Witnessing Ye Zun's misplaced hospitality, Ye Ling looked towards Ye Kanthing, who kept quiet all along, with indignation. Does this Ye Zun understand the situation? Duan Tianrao greatly humiliated you today, yet she still wants to send him off. Quote. Duan Tianrao said. Ye Kanthing was totally unconcerned by Ye Zun's actions and instead focused on peeling her orange. Father, if she wants to send him off, just let her be. There was no way Ye Zun did not understand the situation. That would be a joke. It was hard to find a person in Lin Town who was smarter than Ye Zun. Ye Ling was not aware that Ye Zun and Duan Tianrao had been secretly together since long ago. It was most likely Ye Zun who told Duan Tianrao the news of Ye Kanthang's broken spirit root. If not, how could he have come over so early to annul the engagement? Even though Ye Zun was an adopted daughter, she was very good at observing situations. She never liked her position as an adopted daughter of the Ye family, even though the family had never treated her unfairly at all. It was definitely Ye Zun who told Duan Tianrao about Qintang's broken transformation. 2. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios in her previous life. Not long after Duan Tianrao annulled the engagement, he announced that he was going to marry Ye Zun. In front of the greatest families of Lin Town that had gathered for the blessing day, she was there. And everyone in Lin Town began discussing the annulled engagement. As a result, Ye Kanthing faced great pressure and went over to try to convince Duan Tianrao to change his mind. However, she witnessed the good news between Duan Tianrao and Ye Zun with her own eyes. She herself then became the target that everyone sneered at. Ye Zun was very cunning and alert. In Ye Qintang's previous life, Ye Zun became the mistress of the Duan family and showed her support to the Great Elder. Using her intelligence, she became the right-hand man of Ye Yu in the days to come. Ye Kunting suspected that the chronic poison in Ye Ling's food was placed in by Ye Zun secretly. After all, Ye Zun always hid herself very well. Ye Kunting did not suspect her at all until the relationship between Ye Zun and Duan Tianrao was known. Ye Ling treated Ye Zun as another one of his dear children and took good care of her all the time. On the day her spirit root was stolen, Ye Kunting was led by the Great Elder and Ye Yu to a place with no one else around, where the act then happened. All these could be credited to Ye Zun, who failed to keep her appointment with Ye Kunting. Now as she thought over the details again, Ye Qintang realized that Ye Zun was just a poisonous snake, a detestable traitor, that the Great Elder had placed near her. Tang, I'm sorry that you had to go through all these tough situations one after another. I should not have agreed with the engagement from the Duan family back then. Ye Ling sighed heavily. But at least you don't need to go to turn that heaven spinning wheel anymore. Ye Ling was also worried that Ye Kunting might not be able to turn the wheel with her current strength. Now with the engagement annulled, the Ye family would not send Ye Kunting in order to prevent people from mocking her. Turn the heaven spinning wheel? Ye Kunting raised her eyebrows. How was Duan Tianrao so sure that she could not turn the wheel? She needed to go the worshipping of the heavenly Tao now, as it seemed. What was the worst that could happen without the spirit root? She needed to let Duan Tianrao and everyone in Lin Town witness whether she was truly incapable or not. Ye Kunting put away her thoughts. She smiled and shook her head. As long as father is here, I won't grieve. She did not even care about Duan Tianrao that much as long as Ye Ling was safe. You silly girl, I cannot be with you for your whole life. You'll have to marry someone eventually. Ye Ling touched Ye Kunting's hair lovingly. His health was deteriorating over the years. If not because of that, the Great Elder would have never been able to control the Ye family. Ye Ling could not predict when he would pass away. The thing that he worried the most about was Ye Kunting's safety. On the other hand, Ye Kunting knew about Ye Ling's concern. In her previous life, she was too depressed over Duan Tianrao to notice the abnormality in Ye Ling at all. Only after the Great Elder had asked assassins to kill Ye Ling and frame the second elder who just finished his seclusion, Ye Kunting then realized that Ye family was not the one that she remembered. Ye Yu took away her supreme great spirit root and was selected by the sect masters of the Chao sect and the Yangxiu sect. She was accepted as the direct disciple. Under the sect masters, the Great Elder was sending Ye Yu to the Yangxiu sect now, so there was still some time before the Great Elder returned. Ye Kunting must finish her preparations in this period of time. The real battle would start when the Great Elder returned. Ye Kunting estimated that the Great Elder would return in half a month's time. Around the same time, the second elder, who always supported Ye Ling and cared for Ye Kunting, would finish his transformation. 3. Translator, Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. The second elder was the most powerful person in the Ye family. The Great Elder would not dare to kill Ye Ling and Ye Kunting in his presence. In Ye Qintang's previous life, the Great Elder killed Ye Ling secretly and framed the second elder, effectively eliminating the second elder as well. Ye Kunting then lost two of her greatest supporters in the Ye family. If she had not run away quickly enough, she would have been killed by the Great Elder in Lin Town as well. All her suffering in her previous life happened after the Great Elder returned. This time, Ye Kunting would not allow the same thing to happen again. Whether it was her father or her second uncle, she would protect both of them. She would return the enmity of her previous life 100-fold back to the Great Elder. Ye Kunting's heart was heavy up to this point. Father, can you ask someone to help me buy some herbs? Ye Kunting asked suddenly. Of course. What do you need? Just write them down, and I'll ask someone to go and get them for you. Hoping that she would not be too depressed from what happened with Duan Tianrao, Ye Ling tried to satisfy every need of Ye Kunting. Ye Kunting nodded and then wrote a long list of herbs to Ye Ling. The first thing Ye Kunting needed to do was to figure out the identity of the chronic poison in Ye Ling's body. Ye Ling's true strength was equal to, or maybe even greater than, that of the Great Elder. It was the poison that the Great Elder had placed every day that caused Ye Ling's health to deteriorate and his strength to decrease. The Great Elder would not have been able to assassinate Ye Ling successfully in the previous life if not because of that. Her father would regain his original strength only if the remaining poison was cured. If her father's strength returned, even if the Great Elder wanted to do something, he would not be able to fight. Her father, in her previous life, even though Ye Kunthing lost her spirit root, she was not depressed all along. She studied and practiced manufacturing, array formation, elixirs, and everything that could help her become more powerful. She memorized the ancient medicine recipes, and she could make any spirit pill if she wanted. She only needed 10 days at most to clear the poison. In her father, Ye Ling asked a servant to buy the herbs and bring them back to the Ye family as soon as possible. Once Ye Kunthing made sure that all herbs were bought, she returned to her room to prepare the antidote immediately. Ye Ling was worried at first whether Ye Kunthing could recover from the emotional setback that Duen Tianrao had caused. However, Ye Ling felt a bit confused after seeing his daughter lock herself up with the herbs. Since when was the little girl interested in herbs? How come he did not realize that? Ye Ling was very perplexed. Ye Kunthing, however, had already started with the preparations. Ye Kunthing was very familiar with herbs, and she was extremely skilled in classifying them accordingly. People who did not know of her talent might have thought that a master physician disguised herself as Ye Kunthing. When she was almost done, she wiped away the beads of sweat on her forehead. When she raised her eyes, she saw her delicate but flawed reflection in the bronze mirror beside her. She lifted her hand subconsciously and touched the large red birthmark on her face. A smile appeared on her mouth. She took a few herbs from the stack, mixed them together, and made a bowl of black herbal soup. She frowned after noticing the pungent odor coming from the soup. Her birthmark had been on her face for very long. In her previous life, she initially thought she was born with the birthmark, but she found out much later that it was caused by a transformation. 4. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. The poison in Ye Kunthing's body would not affect one's health, but it would ruin one's appearance. Given that the Great Elder dared to poison even Ye Ling, the master of the family clan, it was obvious that he would not let her go either. It was most likely that the poison was fed to her when she was young by the Great Elder. Ye Kunthing would not have noticed that if she did not study medicine many years later in her previous life. The herbal soup in her hands now was the antidote to that poison. In her previous life, Ye Kunthing was very ashamed of herself because of her birthmark and was not willing to reveal her face in front of others. Now, although she did not bother about her appearance anymore, she still did not want the peculiar poison to remain inside her body. Ye Kunthing took a heavy breath and poured the entire bowl of stinky herbal soup into her mouth. She almost cried after tasting the extreme bitterness of the soup. I'll never drink this again in my life. Ye Kunthing frowned and wiped off the soup residue on her mouth. Right after she drank the herbal soup, Ye Kunthing felt a stabbing pain on the portion of her face with the birthmark. She immediately went in front of the bronze mirror and observed the changes to her face. The large red birthmark gradually disappeared in front of her eyes, revealing pure white skin. Without the birthmark, Ye Kunthing's appearance changed immensely. Her delicate features appeared more luring on her white face, and the ugly woman in the mirror transformed into an astonishing beauty. This is much more pleasing to the eye. Ye Kunthing touched the part of her face that just recovered and smiled, exhibiting unbelievable beauty. Ye Kunthing admired her reflection for a while and then packed things up. She immersed herself in the bath bucket to wash off the fatigue of the day. Cold water immersed her skin gradually. She felt as if she was reborn by the refreshing coldness of the bath. As she calmed down, she recalled all the things that happened in her previous life, but she could only remember up to the moment she crushed her heart on Lingyun Mountain. Ye Kunthing still could not figure out why she was not dead. In her previous life, Ye Kunthing did not know that the heart inside her was the heart of the demon god until much later. She only felt that her heart was different from others and that it would sometimes let out some kind of sinister aura. Ye Kunthing did not have any contact with the power at that time. She tried to suppress it, but people still treated her as an evil demon. The heart of the demon god, everyone is craving for you. If you really are as powerful as how they describe you, Then, lend me your power. Ye Kunthing rested her head on the edge of the bucket. Her eyes were hidden by a layer of water vapor, but one could still observe the coldness in her eyes. As long as she could take her revenge and send all her enemies to hell, she would not mind abandoning her human skin and becoming a demon. Just as she finished her words, the heart that was beating stably suddenly twitched. A strand of dark fog came out of the heart of the demon god and poured into her body. A sharp pain spread throughout her body and dashed towards her lower stomach. The place that used to store the spirit root was cold as ice when her spirit root was dug out, and Ye Kunthing was more familiar with this emptiness than anyone else. The Sea Family, 1, Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. But now, this emptiness was replaced by another power slowly. That warm and wet feeling was exactly how it felt when the spirit root was still inside her body. Ye Kunthing opened her eyes wide in disbelief. A small spirit root was growing slowly inside her body again. Even though the size of the spirit root could not be compared with the supreme grade one she used to have, the fact that a new spirit root was growing made Ye Kunthing extremely excited. From her past experiences, she knew how difficult it was to cultivate without a spirit root. Ye Kunthing spent 300 years in her previous life trying to find ways to restore her spirit root in order to catch up with Yeyu, but all her efforts were to no avail. Only God would know how precious it was for Ye Kunthing to have the small spirit root growing inside her again. Yeyu, you shall wait for my revenge. Ye Kunthing touched her lower stomach gently. Her eyes were brightly lit with the flames of revenge. Around the same time, Ye Kunthang's spirit root was restored. A man who sat on the paragon seat opened his eyes suddenly. In the Antiquity Palace, a blackish-green light sparkled in his eyes. Your Highness, Mu Su, who was standing at the bottom of the palace, noticed the sudden behavior of the man and came forward. The handsome man raised his eyes and looked outside the palace into the endless darkness, and his eyes shimmered. Set off to Lin Town now. Mu Su was stunned. Your Highness, is it? The heart of the demon god has appeared, the man said. He felt the familiar aura again after so long. The heart of the demon god finally appeared again. He would take back everything that belonged to him. The next morning, Ye Kunthing woke up and was full of vigor. Having her spirit root back, she was in an extremely good mood. As long as she took care of the spirit root, she would be able to fight against Yeyu in the future. Ye Kunthing felt more confident about her revenge now that her spirit root was restored. Her plan was also altered accordingly. She needed to deal with the Great Elder, but she did not forget that her real enemy was Yeyu. But now that Yeyu was selected as the disciple of the Yingxiu sect by the sect master, Ye Kunthing also needed to enter the sect to be qualified to fight Yeyu. Ye Kunthing had a plan up her sleeve. She put on her veil and walked out. Even though she restored her appearance, she did not plan to let others know about it so soon. Seeing Ye Kunthing leaving her room, Ye Ling walked towards her worriedly. To his relief, it seemed that his daughter was not affected majorly by the annulment. Ye Kunthing noticed her father and turned towards him. Father. Ye Ling nodded slightly. His eyes were filled with sympathy. Father, do you know about the third young master of the Sea family, Si Bai? Ye Kunthing suddenly asked. Si Bai? Quote. Ye Ling was stunned for a second. The Sea family was one of the greatest family clans in Lin Town. Unlike with the Duan family, the Sea family was always not on good terms with the Ye family. Si Bai's mother died during labor, and it was found out that she was poisoned secretly. The Sea family suspected that it was the Ye family that poisoned her. If not thanks to the help from the Duan family for the past few years, Ye family would have been in a fight with the Sea family due to the resentment between the two families. Nevertheless, the two families were still not in good terms with each other. The Si Bai that Ye Kunthing mentioned was the third young master of the Sea family. He was the favorite grandson of the elder of the Sea family clan. Si Bai was talented, and his spirit root was comparable with the supreme grade one of Ye Kunthing. He was the number one genius in Lin Town. However, Si Bai had been affected by the poisoning of his mothers as well, causing Si Bai to have a weak body ever since the Sea family. 2. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. There were master physicians that had mentioned that Si Bai would not live over 18 years. As such, the Sea family spared no effort trying to extend the life of their third young master, the most precious member of the Sea family. Ye Ling Having no idea why Ye Kangthing mentioned Sibai, said, Sibai's condition has been not very stable recently. I heard that the Si family even invited Master Physician Zhu over. But it did not seem to help. Master Physician Zhu was a famous master physician in Lin Town. Countless people tried to seek for his help, but he rarely helped them. It all depended on his will to save a person. It was apparent that the Si family had spent a lot of effort to invite Master Physician Zhu over. Ye Kangthing nodded as if thinking of something and said, Father, I need to go out and buy something. I shall leave first. Ye Ling stared at Ye Kangthing with confusion. What happened? Why did Ye Kangthing want to go out alone? Was this a dream? It was well known that Ye Kangthing was not willing to go out because of her birthmark. Even if she left the house, she would be inside a palanquin to hide herself from the public. How come today Ye Kangthing suddenly changed? Ye Ling felt that her daughter had become another person after her spirit root was broken. She was totally different now. Then, be careful outside. Ye Ling was concerned about Ye Kangthing's safety. But seeing her newfound independence, he was more relieved than worried. After Ye Kangthing left the Ye family, she walked to the Si family slowly. Ye Kangthing had heard about the third young master of the Si family in her previous life. He was really an incredible genius. The Si family had tried always to extend his life, but he was only able to live to 25 years. Sibai was extremely famous and reputable, and even Ye Yu did not dare to offend him. However, eventually Sibai passed away, and Ye Yu took the chance to terminate the entire Si family along with the Ye family. To prevent similar situations from happening, Ye Kangthing was going to extend Sibai's life. However, she was not just a kind person who wanted to offer help. She wanted to make a deal, one that could get her into the sect with the Si family. Anyone not in the sect was as weak as an ant. One could only be considered truly strong after they stepped onto the path to heaven and entered the sect. Only then they would be able to learn high-level skills and cultivate their spirit roots. Without joining the sect, one could never reach the paragon level no matter how much talent they possessed. The difference between a person in the sect and a normal person was insurmountable. Once a person entered the sect, they were entirely different from normal people. Any inner sect disciple had the power to dominate a part of the world. As such, it was extremely difficult to enter the sect. Simply being in the greatest family clans like the Ye family, or even the royal family, was not enough to qualify. It was easier to learn to fly through the skies than to qualify to enter the sect. Ye Yu was recognized by the sect and was able to enter thanks to the supreme great spirit root she had snatched from Ye Kangthing. From there, Ye Yu learned millions of skills in the sect and reached the paragon level. In contrast, Ye Kangthing in her previous life put in a lot of effort in her training and eventually reached the paragon level as well, but her abilities were still completely incomparable to Ye Yu's. However, now that she was given a second chance, Ye Kangthing raised her eyes and stared at the door of the Si family. A cold smile appeared on her face. The Si family was able to introduce people to the sect. If she could seize the opportunity and enter the sect, she would be one step closer to defeating the Si family. 3. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. This was what Ye Kangthing needed the most. It was the first step to her revenge towards Ye Yu. The servants of the Si family blocked the way as they saw Ye Kangthing. Ye Kangthing raised her eyebrows slightly. She smiled and spoke the first sentence that would change her fate in this life. Tell your master, I have a way to save your third young master. Master Si frowned and stared at the handsome young man in the hall. His eyes were full of concern. It was heartbreaking for him to witness how pale the young man was. He then asked Master Physician Zhu, who was monitoring the pulse of the young man. Quote, Master Physician Zhu, my third grandson's health. Master Physician Zhu was more than 50 years old, and his skills were renowned in the world. However, he shook his head. The poison in the third young Master Si was obtained when he was a fetus. The poison is deep inside him, and it is impossible to remove. After hearing Master Physician Zhu's words, Master Si's face was as white as a sheet. His heart dropped to the bottom of the valley. Meanwhile, Sibai sat on his chair and adjusted his sleeve calmly. His nonchalant attitude made it seem as if he did not care how long he had to live. Instead, he tried to comfort his grandfather. Grandfather, I'm all right. You don't need to worry that much. Seeing his grandson's pale face, Master C felt as if a knife were being twisted in his heart. He felt immense resentment. All right, how can you be all right? If only the Ye family didn't bribe someone to poison your mother when she was pregnant, she wouldn't have died, and you wouldn't have to suffer from the ice toxin as a result. Grandfather, there's no evidence to prove that the Ye family poisoned my mother. Sibai sighed softly. Master C sneered. Evidence? If there were evidence, I would have wiped out the entire Ye family long ago. How would I be able to tolerate their unbridled behaviors? Sibai kept quiet. At that moment, one of the C family's servants rushed in and repeated the words that Ye Kunthing had said outside. She has a way to save my third grandson. Master C mocked in anger. The Ye family is getting more and more presumptuous. I haven't troubled them at all. And now they dare to come to me. Good, good, good. Let her in. If she cannot save my third grandson, I'll use the young lady of the Ye family to settle my resentment. Sibai frowned as he knew how resentful his grandfather was towards the Ye family. Grandfather, the young lady of the Ye family is still very young. Sibai said. Grandson, you don't need to care about this. I know what to do, Master C replied in a deep voice. Sibai sighed as he could not persuade his grandfather. He looked towards the entrance of the hall as if he was thinking about something. Soon, a servant of the C family led a young lady with a veil into the hall. When Sibai's sight was on the young lady, he was stunned for a moment. He had heard of the rumor of the Ye family's young lady before. The rumor said that she was weak, ugly, and wore a veil all the time. Today, he understood that the rumor was wrong. The lady was very young and calm. Even though the veil covered her appearance, her eyes were bright and clear. Sibai did not believe that a lady with such bright eyes would be an ugly person. He did not believe that such a calm lady would be weak at all. Ye Kunthing, who had just stepped into the hall, seemed to notice Sibai's sight. She raised her eyes subconsciously, and her pair of bright eyes gazed upon the handsome young man. When the two made eye contact, a breathtaking smile was seen on Sibai's face. Chapter 15. He nodded at C family. 4. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Ye Kunthing raised her eyebrows slightly. If she remembered correctly, the ice toxin that plagued Sibai and caused the death of his mother had always been thought of as the doing of the Ye family. Yet, why is it that this person was still smiling at her? In reality, the C family's guess was not wrong. The poison used to kill Sibai's mother was indeed the doing of the Ye family. However, this had nothing to do with Ye Ling. This entire scheme was, in fact, secretly done by the great elder of the Ye family. This was only made known to Ye Kunthing when she was on the run in her previous life. Including her previous life, this was her first time seeing Sibai, who, as rumored, was an elegant and talented youth whose handsome face was abnormally pale. Looking away from him into the strict-looking old man seated in the center, she greeted, Grandfather C. The master of the C family clan scoffed. No matter how outstanding the looks of the girl in front of him, his hatred towards the Ye family could never be erased. I am not your grandfather. Do not address me in any way you like. So tell me, Ye Kunthing, you said that you are able to save my third grandson? Yes, Master C, she replied, with a small laugh while completely paying no attention to his animosity. This was because she understood the reason behind his resentment. The elder master held the same family name, Ye. Looking over her thin frame with disdain, Master C bellowed, Ye Kunthing, I don't care if you are the young lady of the Ye family. Do you know of the potential outcomes of your audacity to spout nonsense at the C family door today? Ye Kunthing clearly sensed his hostility towards her. Yet she disregarded it and replied with a smile, since I dared to come, it naturally means I am confident. Isn't it arbitrary of you to claim that I am spouting nonsense when you have not heard what I am going to say? Arbitrary? Master C scoffed. The C family has looked for famous physicians all over the world to treat my third grandson. You are only 15 this year, and I have never heard of the Ye family having any medical attainments, so where did you find the confidence to speak this way? Although Master C allowed Ye Kunthing to come in, he had never at all believed she could really save Sibai. All he wanted to do was to vent his anger, and even if he couldn't kill Ye Kunthing, he had to make the Ye family pay a price. Grandfather, since young lady Ye came here, Personally, I believe she is definitely prepared. Why don't you let her try since you have already let her in? Sibai, who had been standing aside all along, said suddenly. This was to help Ye Kunthing. Master C clearly did not expect his own grandson to speak up for Ye Kunthing. Instantly, his face darkened, and his brows wrinkled. Ye Kunthing had already prepared what to say to persuade Master C, yet the third young master actually helped her out of the predicament before she needed to say anything. This unforeseen situation slightly baffled Ye Kunthing, and she could not help but look at the beautiful young man with a smile in her eyes. Sibai was actually quite kind. Sibai only politely returned Ye Kunthing a smile. He did not want his grandfather to be angry over an immature young lady. Nonsense. Master C was clearly in disapproval. Sibai let out a small laugh. Just as he was about to say something, Ye Kunthing responded, I'm already in the territory of Pei C family. If I make any errors, Master C can question me anytime. Even if I do have any ulterior motives, I won't take my own life as a joke, 16. Right? I will seek revenge myself. 1. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios Ye Kunthang's words made Master C frown slightly. If any another person from the Ye family had come today, he would have called people to drag the person away. However, Ye Kunthing was the young lady of the Ye family and the only child of Master Ye. Thus, she was the next successor to the Ye family. After a moment of silence, Master C finally said, I can let you try today, however. His gaze sharpened. If you cannot verbally explain the method to save my third grandson to us, don't even think about walking out this door. Sibai's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to persuade his grandfather, Ye Kunthing agreed without hesitation. Okay, Master C scoffed and turned towards Master Physician Zhu. Master Physician Zhu, good thing you're here today. Please look over from the side later. If anyone tries to harm my third grandson. Master Physician Zhu responded. Don't worry Master C, I'll be looking carefully. It was only then that Master C nodded in satisfaction. Afterward, he turned to look at Ye Kunthing with a piercing gaze as if there were two sharp blades hidden in his eyes. Ye Kunthing, I'll give you a chance. Now, tell us the method to save my third grandson. Quote ellipsis quote. Ye Kunthing looked at Master C who wore an if you say it wrong you are dead meat expression. She knew that Sibai was Master C's favorite grandson, yet she did not expect Master C to be cautious to this extent. Even though he ordered Master Physician Zhu to pay attention beside her, he did not even give her the opportunity to take the pulse of Sibai and wanted her to directly give the answer. In terms of being overbearing, this old grandfather was undoubtedly the first. Can I not take the pulse of the third young master? Ye Kunthing asked to test the waters. Master C scoffed as if it was a matter of fact. Obviously, all right, whatever you say. With no hint of anxiousness or annoyance, she asked someone to bring some pen and ink over and wrote a prescription on the spot. Upon seeing this, Master Physician Zhu silently shook his head from the side. Even he could tell that Master C was driving Ye Kunthing into a corner. Without even letting this young lady to check Sibai's situation, how could she come up with a treatment? Sibai looked slightly perplexed. On the other hand, an ice-cold expression was etched onto Master C's face as he waited to order people to take her away the moment she was done writing. Then, he could vent his anger on her. Without spending much time, Ye Kunthing wrote two lengthy prescriptions and directly presented them to Master C. Master C did not even spare a glance and laughed coldly. Ye Kunthing, you have not even seen the condition of my third grandson, yet still dared to write a prescription in such a steadfast manner. I think that you are not here to save a life but instead to take a life. Ye Kunthing looked at Master C, not knowing whether to laugh or to cry. First, he did not even let her take Sibai's pulse. And now, he was claiming that she randomly wrote a prescription. She was aware that given the C's hatred towards the Ye family, Master C would definitely make things difficult for her. However, since Master Physician Zhu is here today, why don't Master C let him take a look at the prescription first before making a conclusion? Ye Kunthing smiled as her eyes were full of confidence. I'll let you have a deathbed struggle, scoffed Master C. I just want to see how much longer you can be so stubborn and not admit your mistake. Then, he passed the prescription to Master Physician Zhu without taking his eyes Away from her. Ye Kanthing shrugged casually. Master Physician Zhu read through the prescription very carefully. The slight worry on his face from before was gradually replaced by shock as he read on. This prescription. Master Physician Zhu suddenly exclaimed. Seeing this, Master C pounded the table and stood up. With a finger pointed at Ye Kanthing, he shouted, Ye Kanthing, what more do you have to say? I will seek revenge myself. 2. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Upon hearing the commotion, the servants outside the hall entered the hall and rolled up their sleeves, ready to take Ye Kanthing down. Forget it, grandfather. Sibai stood up suddenly and walked to Ye Kanthing's side. He did not believe that Ye Kanthing was able to treat him at such a young age. Sibai, move away. Master C's face darkened quickly. Sibai frowned slightly, looking towards Ye Kanthing. He muttered discreetly, Lady Ye, I'll send you back. Then, he tried to bring Ye Kanthing away. However, Ye Kanthing stood still without budging. With a faint smile, she turned to him and shook her head. Sibai's eyes were filled with puzzlement. He did not know that the young lady of the Ye family was this stubborn. Given his grandfather's hatred towards the Ye family, it was likely that he would cut Ye Kanthing up. If she did not leave now, she would probably never be able to leave anymore. As expected, right as Sibai thought about that fact, Master C ordered loudly, take Ye Kanthing away. Upon hearing the commotion, the servants outside the hall entered the hall and rolled up their sleeves, ready to take Ye Kanthing down. However, wait, a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Returning back to his senses after a state of astonishment, Master Physician Zhu made a frenzied dash towards the front of Ye Kanthing and shielded her with his shivering hands. The moment he saw Master C ordering people to take her away, he raised the prescription in his hands and looked at Master C with flustered eyes. Master Physician Zhu, what are you doing? Master C looked confusedly at the man who suddenly came forward to disrupt the scene. Master Physician Zhu was about to cry from anxiety. Master C, do not injure Lady Ye. Do not injure her. Why not? Her prescription obviously wants to harm my third. This prescription is real. It can really save the third young master's life, he said hurriedly. Quote. Master C looked at him unbelievingly. What did you say? Master Physician Zhu let out a deep breath. After sorting out his emotions, he said, quote, previously, I told Master that removing the toxin in the third young master was almost impossible. In this world, the only prescription that can completely remove inherited ice toxin can only be found in the ancient book of medicine. However, this book has been missing for a long time, and my master had only been able to obtain fragments of a few pages of the book. A while ago, I noticed that the 2 prescriptions Lady Ye wrote indeed are targeted towards eliminating the poison within the third young master. With long-term medication, the poison can be effectively removed. Although I dare not say that he will be able to enjoy longevity, however, living up to 30 years old is definitely not a problem. Master Physician Zhu was extremely excited. Never would he have believed that he would see a prescription from the ancient book of medicine from a 15-year-old girl. God knows how precious this book was to all the physicians in the world. Many people had spent their entire lifetime looking for it, yet they were not even able to find any fragments of the book. However, he was able to see it today, in the writing of a young girl. At this point, Master Physician Zhu looked at Ye Kanthing with unparalleled fervor. Master C was completely taken aback. Master Physician Zhu shared a deep relationship with the C family, and he was extremely skilled. Naturally, Master C could believe whatever he said. Then, Master C's expression changed slightly. Sibai, who was standing aside, froze for a moment. He looked with astonishment at Ye Kanthing, whose expression was calm. Ye Kanthing flashed him a small smile and stepped forward, facing Master C. Can Master C trust me now? I will seek revenge myself. 3. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Master C frowned slightly. He did not know how to react to what just happened. He initially thought Ye Kanthing was here to seek death, yet who knew? She really was able to write a life-saving prescription to cure the toxin. Bring some tea for Lady Ye, said Master C as he took a deep breath. Seeing the change of orders from their master, the servants who were initially in the hall immediately left in dejection. A young male servant who understood what was going on quickly served Ye Kunthing a cup of tea. Take a seat, Master C said while looking at Ye Kunthing. Although his tone was still strict, the words he used were significantly less harsh. No matter how much he hated the Ye family previously, it was undeniable that Ye Kunthang's prescription could really save Sibai's life. Ye Kunthing received the cup of tea. Recognizing the change in Master C's attitude, she took a seat on a chair beside. The ancient book of medicine had indeed been lost for a long time. However, 300 years later in Ye Kunthang's previous life, the book was found. Ye Kunthing had flipped through the entire book, and with her photographic memory, she was able to clearly memorize everything on the book. Although the ice toxin within Sibai was seen as an incurable disease by current physicians, 300 years later, it was not a big deal at all. Sibai relaxed as well. Looking at how his grandfather's expression changed, he silently chuckled and returned to his seat. The atmosphere in the hall was very peculiar. As though he had not adjusted to the drastic change of events, Master C took a few sips of tea silently as he sized Ye Kunthing up. With a deep gaze in search of answers. Why do you want to save my third grandson? He finally asked. After a while, like fire and water, the C family has a deep hatred towards the Ye family and can never get along well. As the young lady of the Ye family, why do you want to help us, the C's? He questioned. While he believed in the authenticity of the prescriptions, he could not guess the reason behind Ye Kunthang's willingness to help the C family. Ye Kunthing replied, the Ye family is no longer the same Ye family as before. Master C frowned slightly. Master C should know that my father's health has been deteriorating in recent years. The great elder of the Ye family, who has been wanting the family clan master position for a long time, saw this as the opportunity to take over my father's power. Now, my father no longer controls the Ye family, and most of the people in the Ye residence are all on the great elder's side. Given the great elder's ambition, both my father and I have become a thorn in his flesh and would not hesitate to get rid of us, Ye Kunthing said. Without hurry. In order for Master C to let down his guard, she must say the truth, or else she will not be able to reach her objectives given the C family's hatred towards the Ye's. After hearing the term, great elder of the Ye family, Master C's frown deepened. It was this great elder, who Master C suspected as the culprit behind the poisoning of Sibai's mother. Plotting to murder the family clan master and his successor is a major offense in a family clan. Even if the great elder of the Ye family wants to harm you, he needs to act carefully as well. If this news spreads, he will not be able to become the family clan master, said Master C as he did not easily believe Ye Kunthang's words. Ye Kunthing chuckled and responded, if he really wants to harm us, it would be easy, wouldn't it? She paused for a moment and continued, Ye you, a girl from the Ye family and the biological granddaughter of the great elder, was accepted into the Yingxiu sect as an exception. Several days ago after the Yingxiu sect master took a fancy to her. I wonder if you have heard of this. I will seek revenge myself. 4. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios Master C was shocked upon hearing, Yingxiu sect. The Yingxiu sect was renowned as a large, powerful sect, with highly skilled disciples such that any disciple was strong enough to overturn the imperial court. I have heard about it somewhat. Ye Kunthing laughed and said, so, does Master C know why Yingxiu sect took a fancy to her? Master C stayed silent for a moment. I heard that Ye Yu has a supreme great spirit root. The news of Ye Yu being selected by Yingxiu sect had long been circulated around Lin Town. Even more so, it was the great elder of the Ye family who let out the news of Ye Yu's supreme great spirit root. She let out a burst of laughter suddenly, of which had an indescribable hint of sarcasm. That spirit root was originally mine. Master C was taken aback. For a moment, that spirit root was Ye Kunthang's. She lifted her shirt up a little, showing her abdomen. Although it was only the size of 2 fingers, a hideous scar was painfully obvious on her fair skin. It was Ye Yu who personally cut open my abdomen, dug out my spirit root, and put it into her body. All of this was the great elder's intention. In order to let his granddaughter obtain a supreme great spirit root, he did not hesitate to harm me. Then, in order to snatch the position of the family clan master, why would he let a stumbling block like me off? she put her shirt down. Indifferently as she spoke calmly as though she had not personally experienced all that misery. This sight completely shocked everyone in the hall. Cutting open the abdomen to dig the spirit root. What cruelty! The spirit root was the root of every powerful person's ability to stay safe and pursue their goals, as well as the source of their energy. To dig out another spirit root and use it for oneself was not just despicable but also prohibited even to the evilest person. Who would have thought that such an act actually happened in the Ye family? Master C took a deep breath. At this instant, he finally noticed that the reason Ye Kanthing came to the C family was to find a way out for her and her father. Given how the great elder was in complete control of the Ye family now, it seemed that both father and daughter would be in danger in days to come. With bright and clear eyes, she looked at Master C and continued. These 2 prescriptions can help third young master to get out from his predicament and as a display of my sincerity. Not only can I let him be free from pain, but I can also make him be as healthy as normal people and ensure he lives up to hundreds of years old. Her words struck Master C's weak spot. He had put in so much effort only to let C Bai live longer. What do you want the C family to do for you? If you want us to stand up for you, I'm afraid that is impossible. If we could harm the Ye family, I would have destroyed your entire family long ago, Master C replied. Ye Kanthing chuckled. I'll stand up for myself and seek revenge. Myself. I just need the C family to help me with a favor. You may ask anything as long as it does not involve the internal fighting within the Ye family, promised Master C. A trace of laughter flashed across Ye Kanthang's eyes. What she wanted was exactly this promise. I wish for Master C to refer me to someone. Who? Musu. Master C's expression changed, and he looked at Ye Kanthing weirdly. Musu was the city lord of Fallen Stars City. His name was well known all over the city, and his skills were immeasurable. He was an extremely powerful person of high status who had close relations with many sect masters. Even the monarch had to lower his head whenever he saw Musu. The C family and Musu had close connections. However, only a handful of people in the C family knew about this. Where did Ye Kanthing find out just about have a baby? 1. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios Master C. Voy. Weird expression. Of course Ye Kanthing knew about the relationship between Musu and the C family. In her previous life when the C family was destroyed by Yeyu, Musu had sought revenge for the C's. Had Yeyu's master not come in time, Yeyu would have been killed by Musu. Musu had both a special identity and a high rank. He was Ye Kanthang's real target. Only a shockingly powerful person like Musu had the ability to recommend her to a sect. And only through entering a sect would she be able to have the capital for a showdown with Yeyu. Do let me consider this. I need to ask for Lord Musu's opinion. Master C hesitated. This was not a decision he could make himself. I can wait, laughed Ye Kanthing. She believed that the C family would do their best to persuade Musu for C Bai's sake. Nodding his head slightly, Master C responded, I will pass your message to Lord Musu, but I cannot guarantee he will be willing to meet. Master C remembered to add on. I will do my best, thank you, Master C, in advance. Ye Kanthing replied. This is a must. You saved my third grandson. The C family will return any favors owed, said Master C. Ye Kanthing smiled. She knew the C family's teaching. Otherwise, she would not have gone there so assuringly. Ellipsis. Although she could not obtain the item to let C Bai live up to hundreds of years old in such a short time, the 2 prescriptions that Ye Kanthing gave were enough to get everyone in the C family worked up. Master Physician Zhu took this opportunity to discuss the 2 prescriptions. In front of Ye Kanthing, the Master Physician was extremely respectful and eager to seek new knowledge. Seeing as how she had already achieved her goal, Ye Kanthing stood up and said, It is late already, I should leave now. Nodding his head lightly, Master C specially ordered the housekeeper to see Ye Kanthing out. As he looked at the back of the leaving Ye Kanthing, Master C wore a thoughtful look. Why was it that the young lady of the Ye family was different from the rumors? Such boldness and calm composure were definitely hard to find amongst people her age. When he finally turned back around, he saw his grandson, who was seated in a chair with a hand supporting his chin, looking back at him with a faint smile. If I remember correctly, grandfather has always wanted a granddaughter. Yes. The younger generation of the C family only had 3 males. Master C frowned slightly and chided, "Do not talk nonsense." Sibai chuckled and looked down as the image of Ye Kantang's neither humble nor disrespectful figure appeared in his mind. Ye Kanthing is interesting. After leaving the C family, Ye Kanthing went straight back to the Ye family. Ye Ling saw his returning daughter and was filled with curiosity. Yet, he kept his composure and did not ask her anything. Ye Kanthing went directly back to the room to cultivate. The restoration of her spirit root was indeed precious, yet if she cultivated at such a slow pace, she would not be able to achieve anything. As such, she needed to make full use of her time for cultivation. As darkness fell, Ye Kanthing went to sleep after cultivating her spirit root for a while. However, she was in such a deep sleep that she did not notice a black aura surging from within the heart of the demon god. The aura which had helped Ye Kanthing rebuild her spirit root flowed from her heart and out of her body. That black fog, which emerged from the heart of the demon god, slowly formed into a small black ball above Ye Kanthang's body and quietly laid on her chest, rubbing itself against Ye Kanthing comfortably. Under the moonlight, 2 mighty figures appeared outside the door of the Ye family. Musu looked at the Ye residents before him and hesitated for a moment before turning to look at the aloof and handsome 21 man. Just have a baby, too. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios, Your Highness, is the heart of the demon god right here? Asked Musu. The man nodded slightly. In the darkness, his deep set of eyes looked towards the firmly locked main door of the Ye family, and in an instant, the door was opened. He headed in. Stay here. A low and pleasant voice traveled out from his mouth. Musu devotedly guarded outside the door as he watched the man enter the Ye family. Sensing something, the small black ball lying on Ye Kanthang's chest instinctively quivered and quickly hid under Ye Kanthang's sheets. In the next moment, the door to Ye Kanthang's room opened without a sound, showing a tall figure standing outside. The man, sensing a familiar aura, walked to Ye Kanthang's bedside, using the moonlight to look at the young girl. An exquisite small face which looked like God's most perfect creation came into sight. In her sound asleep state, she appeared lovely and gentle, yet there was not a slight emotion in the man's deep set of eyes. He lifted his hands suddenly and placed them on Ye Kanthang's chest, pausing for a moment when he felt a softness against his palms before quickly returning back to normal. A wisp of aura flowed from where Ye Kanthang's heart was and gathered in his palm. The small black ball, which was hidden under the blanket, stared at what he was doing and anxiously rushed out from under the blanket, crashing right into the man's disobedient hand. Upon the collision with the small black ball, the aura which was just gathered dispersed and a black fog traveled up his palm. Frowning slightly, he looked towards the little black ball which was lying in front of Ye Kanthang's chest and protecting her. You cannot dig her heart out. A soft and weak voice which sounded like that of a kid emerged from the small black ball. The man glared at that small black ball with a serious expression and said in an icy cold tone, "That is mine." Angered, the small black ball immediately tightened its guard. The man glared at that small black ball with a thoughtful expression. The aura of the evil actually gained consciousness. Instinctively looking at Ye Kanthing who was sound asleep, he continued, "Is it because of her? The heart of the demon god bore the aura of the evil on heaven and earth, yet this aura formed into a spirit which should not exist. Could it be that the aura of the evil was awoken by this young girl? I already have consciousness now. You cannot make me vanish," sputtered the small black ball angrily. It was originally the aura of the evil contained within the heart of the demon god. Now that it finally managed to gain a little consciousness after being awoken by Ye Kanthing, it would lose its consciousness forever once he takes away the heart of the demon god. It did not want that to happen. It had just gained consciousness. It did not want to disappear. "It is not your choice," the man said coldly. "If you dare to dig the heart out, I will self-destruct." "You will not get anything at all," the small black ball replied in fury. Slightly narrowing his eyes, a dangerous cold light flashed across them. Nothing could ever threaten him. As if it sensed the dangerous aura coming from the man, the small black ball could not help but withdraw into Ye Kanthang's arms. I can return the heart to you, but you must provide me with a body. Quote, impossible. How could the aura of the evil have a body? Who says it is impossible? If it is the child of you and her, it is possible. I am a spirit bred from your heart and her body, and only a body with both your bloodlines would be able to bear my consciousness. The small black ball got increasingly excited as it spoke. If it becomes her child, does it mean it can address her as 22, The Pavilion of Treasures, 1, Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. The man was obviously shocked by the small black ball's words. A child with her. The man's gaze fell on the young girl who was deeply asleep. The small black ball explained weakly, as long as you two have a child, I will return your heart to you. Now that I am conscious, you will not be able to get the heart back without my consent. A deep frown was formed on his face. Just as the small black ball's words, he would not have any means to get his heart back if the small black ball resisted. An icy cold gaze with an awfully murderous intent landed on the small black ball for a long while. Confirming that there was nothing that could be done with that black ball in the way, the man finally left. Upon seeing the man's departure, the small black ball finally stopped quivering and went back to Ye Kantang's arms, moving around like a cat that had curled up into a ball. Mother Tilda, it liked Ye Kantang, it liked this girl who awoke it. It was she and the heart of the demon god that bred it. She must be its mother. The moment the man excited from the Ye family's main door, Mu Su, who had been guarding outside, instantly noticed the gloomy expression on the man's face. Your Highness? The man furrowed his brows. After a moment of silence. How do I make a lady bear a child for me? Upon hearing the question, Mu Su's eyes almost popped out. What did he just hear? The noble and cold demon god who had severed romantic relations actually asked such a shocking question. Many thoughts raced across Mu Su's mind. Swallowing his saliva, he replied hesitantly, as long as a lady truly falls in love with a guy, I supposed she would willingly have his child. Fall in love? The man, who wore a cold expression all year round, showed a look of suspicion for the first time. Ye Kantang had a dream, a very weird one. In the dream, she was being chased after a bouncing small black ball which called her mother. When she was awake, she did not understand why she would have such a ridiculous dream. However, she quickly ignored and forgot about whatever that happened in the dream. Ye Kantang got up after washing up slightly. After the incident yesterday, the C family was considered secure. However, it was not so easy to make the C family truly do their best for her. She was not anxious though. To her, half a month's time was enough for her to prepare everything. Today, Ye Kantang had other things to do. The C family and Mu Su were both external powers. She was fully aware that if she wanted to take revenge on her enemies from her past life, the only thing she could truly rely on was strengthening herself. Now that she had obtained a new spirit root, albeit one that was overly weak and tiny, she must hurry and fatten this small spirit root up. Ye Kantang left the Ye residence and dashed towards the Pavilion of Treasures in the eastern corner of Lin Town. The Pavilion of Treasures was well known throughout the world, not just in Lin Town. Branch stores could be found in every large city. There was a superb collection of countless extremely rare and precious treasures in the Pavilion of Treasures. As long as one had the money, they could obtain any rare treasures from there. The 7 stories high Pavilion of Treasures was grand and magnificent. Ye Kantang had gone in once in her previous life but did not manage to buy anything due to the extremely hefty price tags. However, this time, a smile tugged at her lips as she entered the Pavilion of Treasures. Although it was still early in the morning, there was already quite a few customers. The waiting staff in grey shirts shuffled through the crowd with dazzling treasures in their hands. Walking past the shelves that stored gemstones, Ye Kantang walked to the front of a small counter where a few fingernail-sized stones were placed on the counter. Though weirdly colored, the gems shone. The Pavilion of Treasures, 2, Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Ye Kantang laid her eyes on a pinkish white stone. That stone was only about the size of a fingernail of a little finger. Its white body with speckles of pink was undoubtedly beautiful. Flower Moon Stone. Ye Kantang narrowed her eyes. The Flower Moon Stone was a gemstone which contained an extensive amount of spirit energy and, thus, was extremely precious. Just by wearing this gemstone, On their body, cultivators can speed up their cultivation process. It also had the effect of allowing females to enjoy eternal youth. Just as Ye Kunthing was looking at that flower moonstone, a few tall figures suddenly came up to a side and slapped a hand on the counter. Never would have I thought that the pavilion of treasures really carried the flower moonstone, commented a tall and handsome young man as he pointed towards that gemstone. Upon hearing that voice, Ye Kunthing lifted her head, and a cold light flashed across her eyes once she saw who that man was clearly. So, it is the young lady of the Ye family. Or should I call you ex-future sister-in-law? The young man noted sarcastically when he noticed Ye Kunthing. Duan Tianrui, said Ye Kunthing calmly as she looked back at the man who was harboring evil thoughts. Duan Tianrui was the third young master of the Duan family and Duan Tianrao's younger brother. The Duan family would most probably have known about Duan Tianrao's visit to the Ye family to annul the engagement 2 days ago, which was why Duan Tianrui was this sarcastic. Why, you've also taken a fancy to this flower moonstone? Duan Tianrui looked at Ye Kunthing from head to toe as a mysterious smile played on the corner of his lips. Not that bad of a taste. The flower moonstone is hard to find, and it's rare for a piece to appear. Duan Tianrui paused for a moment and continued, however, as a member of the Ye family, don't you think that such a rare item should be given to someone who is truly compatible with the stone? Ye Kunthing chuckled. Who do you think is compatible? Smiling, Duan Tianrui replied. Compatible with whom? It is naturally my new future sister-in-law. The young lady of the Ye family is probably still unaware, but 2 days later at the sacrificial ceremony, my second brother will publicly announce the annulment of his engagement to you and will even reveal his new fiancée. My new sister-in-law said she wanted the flower moonstone, so it would be wise for Lady Ye to not come into this. Others may not know the identity of the new future sister-in-law whom Duan Tianrui was talking about. But how would Ye Kunthing not know? Was it not just Ye Zan? Ye Kunthing was initially not too concerned about obtaining this flower moonstone. However, since it was what Ye Zan wanted, she did not mind blocking her way. Oh, really? Ye Kunthing laughed lightly, but I really like this flower moonstone. Duan Tianrui narrowed his eyes slightly as a hint of annoyance flashed across his eyes. Lady Ye, the flower moonstone can ensure one's eternal youth and would naturally be most suitable for beautiful ladies. Someone like Lady Ye. His glanced across the veil that Ye Kunthing was wearing on her face and continued. It would be better to not recklessly waste such a precious object. The sarcasm was obvious in his words. Although Duan Tianrui did not say it explicitly, he implied that Ye Kunthing was ugly. She raised her brows and asked, what if I must have it? Duan Tiandi's face darkened. Lady Ye, the Ye and Duan family have some relations. Now that your spirit root is broken, you will not be able to use the flower moonstone to aid your cultivation. It is clear that you have no need for this. Are you sure you want to snatch this from me? Ye Kunthing wanted to laugh. Duan Tianrui, if you really want to buy this flower moonstone as a gift to Ye Zan, let's talk with our abilities. A sneer escaped Duan Tiandi's mouth. He immediately waved his hands to call the waiting staff. The Pavilion of Treasures. 3. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Hey. Waiting staff, who had not come over despite Ye Kunthing standing there for so long, went forward. Immediately upon seeing Duan Tianrui waving his hands. Third young master of the Duan family, you here? Duan Tianrui nodded his head slightly and pointed to the flower moonstone at the counter. Take this flower moonstone out. The waiting staff instantly took it out and said, this flower moonstone only arrived yesterday. In this world, it would be difficult to find a piece with better quality than this. Duan Tianrui was very satisfied as he looked at that gemstone, and after admiring it, he eyed Ye Kunthing. How much does this flower moonstone cost? The waiting staff replied, this flower moonstone is selling at 30,000 gold. The waiting staff reported the price loudly, and the hefty 30,000 gold instantly attracted the attention of the other customers in the Pavilion of Treasures. A flower moonstone that was about the size of a soybean actually cost 30,000 gold. 30,000 gold was not an amount that ordinary people were able to earn in their entire lifetime. Even a child from a large family clan may find it difficult to fork out such a huge sum of money. 30,000 gold. Lady Ye, Do you still want it? Duan Tianrui looked at Ye Kunthing. He had long known that great elder of the Ye family had taken over the family master Ye Ling's power, and that Ye Kunthang's position as young lady of the family was an empty and powerless one. The Ye family was then controlled by Ye Yu's grandfather, the great elder, so there was no way Ye Kunthing could fork out such a huge amount of money. Ye Kunthing narrowed her eyes as a cold light flashed in them. Many surrounding customers watched the two people, one from the Duan family and the other from the Ye family, fighting over a flower moonstone. However, once they saw that the person from the Ye family was Ye Kunthing, they could not help but quietly shake their heads. Although Duan Tianrao's annulment of engagement was not put into effect yet, the rumors had already been circulated throughout Lin Town. Now that the third young master of the Duan family was fighting with Ye Kunthing in public, the rumor must more or less be verified. There were many rumors of the Ye family within Lin Town, and everyone had heard that young lady Ye was not as noble as before. How was she going to fight with Duan Tianrui? A servant following his master, who was picking a jade at a corner, heard the commotion and was shocked when he looked in the direction of the noise. He hurriedly turned towards his master and said, "Third young master, it is Lady Ye." Sibai placed the white jade in his hands back onto the counter and turned to look in the direction that his servant was pointing at, where he saw a tiny figure in the crowd. Ye Kunthing, third young master, Lady Ye, seems to have gotten into a conflict with the Duan family. Should we go and take a look? Asked a servant concernedly. Sibai was not anxious to reply and watched the young girl who was standing alone from afar. Glancing at the trace of a smile in her eyes, he immediately laughed and shook his head. There is no need, she has a way. How familiar that smile was. When Ye Kunthing was dealing with his grandfather at the Si family, she had the same look of full confidence. However, Sibai did not look away. He was curious about how Ye Kunthing was going to resolve this conflict. On the other side, Duan Tianrui played with the flower moonstone in his hands as he evilly admired Ye Kunthang's embarrassment. Duan Tianrui had long been dissatisfied with the engagement between Ye Kunthing and Duan Tianrao. How could his handsome and talented brother marry such an ugly woman? Good thing that the engagement was cancelled, severing any relations the Duan family had with her. Now, Duan Tianrui would not need to be polite to Ye Kunthing. Lithram 1, Translator, Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. There was no hint of sadness on Ye Kunthang's face. Instead, she wore a smile and looked towards the waiting staff. Call your manager here. The waiting staff was slightly taken aback. If there is anything, you can tell me. If you want the Lithram, call someone of power here. Ye Kunthang's eyes turned cold. Her glare made the waiting staff feel numb all over suddenly. However, the word, Lithram, ran through his mind like a flash of shocking lightning. Duan Tianrui did not know what Ye Kunthing had up her sleeves, and only felt that she was inviting humiliation. Looking at the waiting staff, he said, "Go ahead and look all you want." Before Duan Tianrui could finish his sentence, the waiting staff had left frantically to search for someone. Just a moment later, a middle-aged man nearing 50 rushed back, along with the waiting staff. "Are you Lady Ye? I am the manager of Lin Town's Pavilion of Treasures." The middle-aged man looked towards Ye Kunthing and continued, "I heard that Lady Ye mentioned the Lithram just now. I wonder if Lady Ye knows anything about it." His tone was stable, yet anxiety filled his eyes. The Lithram was an item that the Pavilion of Treasures pavilion master desired. He had looked all over the world and placed a notice in every branch of the Pavilion of Treasures of a 100,000 gold reward for finding it, yet had no clue up until today. "I know the place that has the Lithram," Ye Kunthing said. A sneer emerged on Duan Tianrao's face upon hearing her words. Ye Kunthing was only 15 and had never left the city of Lin Town up to this day. How would she know where the Lithram was? The manager's eyes glistened. "Lady Ye, as long as you provide us with the location of the Lithram, the Pavilion of Treasures will definitely express our gratitude with hefty rewards." Ye Kunthing replied, "The Lithram is at the Dead Leaves Forest outside Lin Town." At this instant, Duan Tianrui was really about to laugh. The Dead Leaves Forest was close to Lin Town. Although there were quite a few medicinal herbs, they were all common ones. Amongst all the precious medicinal herbs, the Lithram was extremely hard to find. Ye Kunthing must have been crazy to recklessly make up a lie that the lithium was in the dead leaves forest. Not a single person would believe her words. The Pavilion of Treasure's manager did not think that Ye Kumthing would actually mention the dead leaves forest. The excitement in his eyes vanished as though a flame was extinguished by a bucket of ice water, and his expression hardened. Lady Ye, please do not joke around. How would the dead leaves forest have lithium? What if there really is? Ye Kumthing continued, have someone prepare a pen and some ink. I will draw out the exact location of the lithium. Initially, the manager had thought that she was unreliable. However, upon seeing her calmness, he could not help but frown. After hesitating for a while, he asked someone to prepare a pen and some ink. Ye Kumthing drew a simple drawing quickly and indicated on the picture the location of the lithium. The manager passed the drawing to his henchman doubtfully. After seeing a staff leaving the Pavilion of Treasures with the drawing, everyone was curious. No one knew where Ye Kumthang's confidence came from. Despite the fact that Ye Kumthang was rumored as an unreliable person, the manager still had a tiny glimmer of hope. Having heard from the waiting staff that Ye Kumthing and Duan Tianrui were fighting over the flower moonstone, the manager told Duan Tianrui, Young Master Duan, I hope you can wait a while for this issue to settle. Duan Tianrui laughed. I'm not in a rush. I, as well, hope that the Pavilion of Treasures can obtain the lithium. Then, he looked at Ye Kumthing's lithium, too. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. The manager smiled gratefully. Third young master, is what Lady Ye said true? Is the lithium really in the dead leaves forest? The servant from the Sea family asked Sibai after he noticed there was no further movement. On the other side, Sibai reclined to a side with his fingers stroking the white jade in his hands. Laying his eyes on Ye Kumthing, a smile tugged on his lips, and he said coolly, who knows? The servant became even more confused. If there isn't, wouldn't Lady Ye be ridiculed publicly? Third, young master, do you really not intend to? Ouch! A dejected expression was etched on the servant's face as he covered his forehead, which had just been flicked by Sibai. Sibai chuckled. We don't need to worry about her. Just set your mind at ease and watch on. The servant rubbed his forehead and could not understand what was going on anymore. Time passed. The manager ordered tea to be served for Ye Kumthing and Duan Tianrui to enjoy. The servants from the Duan family who came along with Duan Tianrui stood beside Duan Tianrui and glanced at Ye Kumthing from time to time. Third, young master, Lady Ye is crazy. Why you are still playing along with her? Duan Tianrui looked up and cast Ye Kumthing a glance with an obvious curl tugging at the corner of his lips. If she wished to embarrass herself, why shouldn't I fulfill her wish? As he finished his sentence, Duan Tianrui looked at the entrance of the Pavilion of Treasures to see the man who had been sent to find the lithium rushing back hurriedly with a body covered in dust. Duan Tianrui smiled widely and placed his cup down. An interesting show is about to start. Many customers stayed in the Pavilion of Treasure to watch the development of events. Both the Ye and Duan family are top family clans in Lin Town. Obviously, they did not want to miss such an exciting show. When the man came back, he was covered in dust and carrying something in his arms very carefully as if it was something precious. Quote, how did it go? The manager asked him immediately. Panting, he could not hide his excitement and nodded his head continuously. I found it. However, it was hidden in the hole of a dead tree. If not for Lady Ye's drawing, I wouldn't have been able to find it. With that said, gasps sounded in the Pavilion of Treasures immediately. The lithium was really found. How could this be? Everyone had a look of confusion on their faces. The man carefully removed a beautiful box which was covered with soil from his hands and passed it to the manager, who opened the box hurriedly. Only in it quietly rested an emerald lithium covered with dewdrops. In that instant, the manager heaved a heavy sigh of relief. Lady Ye, thank you. I must really thank you this time. The manager looked Ye Kumthing with a wide smile on his face as he held the lithium carefully. God knows how many years the owner of the pavilion had spent looking for this lithium. If not for Ye Kumthang's directions, who would have known that such a precious lithium was actually growing in the hole of a dead tree? Ye Kumthing smiled faintly. You're welcome. Lithium was indeed hard to find now, but that was only because people had thought wrongly the place where lithium grew in. Decades later, the existence of lithium would no longer be a rare one. In her previous life, when the Great Elder sent people to kill her, she once escaped to the Dead Leaves forest and saw this stalk of lithium incidentally. Of course, she remembered its position clearly. No one else would know all of this. With the finding of lithium, Duan Tianrui, who had been anticipating Ye Kanthing to embarrass herself completely, wore an extremely ugly and dark expression. In a while, the manager ordered for the reward of 100,000
Chapter 27
gold to be carried
Lithium
out. 3. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. The glistening of 3 whole big boxes of gold, the onlookers dizzy. Ye Kanthing glanced at the gold and reached out for gold bricks each the size of a palm, slamming them onto the counter with the flower moonstone. A commotion stirred with her every action, yet Ye Kanthing did not mind at all. Instead, her narrowed eyes were set directly on the gloomy-looking Duan Tianrui, whose expression turned darker with every gold brick placed down. 30,000 gold bricks. I am taking this flower moonstone, said Ye Kanthing, with her lips curled as she placed down the last brick of gold. Duan Tianrui was furious. He did not expect that Ye Kanthing had this up her sleeve. Indeed, she did not have enough money. But, so what? Not only did she not have to pay any money, she even received 3 boxes of gold from Pavilion of Treasures. While Duan Tianrui was grim, he was so pissed by Ye Kanthang's arrogance to the point that his breathing turned erratic. Young Master Duan, I'm really sorry. The Pavilion of Treasures has always had a first come first serve rule. Thus, this flower moonstone, the manager said tactfully as he walked straight towards Duan Tianrui with his eyes on the flower moonstone in Duan Tiandi's hands. After obtaining the lithium, the manager obviously would be on Ye Kanthang's side. Duan Tianrui silently gritted his teeth and returned the flower moonstone, which he initially thought would be claimed by him, back to the manager. The manager then handed the flower moonstone to Ye Kanthing in front of Duan Tianrui and said, Lady Ye, this flower moonstone is yours. Raising her brows and looking at the flower moonstone about the size of a soybean, she looked up and cast Duan Tianrui a glance. Her glance almost made Duan Tiandi's lungs explode from holding his anger back. He originally wanted to watch Ye Kanthing embarrass herself, yet it turned out that he was the one to be embarrassed. Congratulations, Lady Ye, for obtaining what you wanted. I still have something to do and will take a leave first. Duan Tianrui forced his words while gritting his teeth and left with his people without turning back. No one had expected the incident to end this way, and everyone could not help but sigh. After seeing Duan Tianrui leave in anger because of Ye Kanthing, Si Bai, who had been watching from a side, chuckled lightly as he looked away and continued to pick a jade. Lady Ye, feel free to choose whatever you want. I will go ahead and process the lithium first, the manager told Ye Kanthing with a smile. Ye Kanthing nodded slightly. The flower moonstone was an unexpected joy. She had more important things to find. The manager left the hall on the first floor and headed towards the highest floor. The door to the elegant room on the highest floor was locked tightly. Arranging his clothes, the manager knocked on the door. Respectfully, Pavilion Master, it's me. Come in. The manager pushed the door open and entered. In the room, an attractive-looking Musu was sitting at a table. Once the manager saw Musu, he immediately went on his knees and respectfully handed him the beautiful box that contained lithium. Reporting Pavilion Master, the lithium has been found. Musu lifted his brows slightly and received the box. After seeing the lithium, his lips tugged upwards involuntarily. No one would have expected that the mysterious owner of the Pavilion of Treasures was actually Musu, renowned city lord of Fallen Stars City. Quite a long time was spent, but at least it is finally found. You settled this issue pretty well, Musu said satisfactorily as he placed the box down. The manager knelt at the spot respectfully and replied, thank you for the compliment. Musu suddenly arrived at Lin Town yesterday night. The manager, who had always been fearful of Musu, was shocked when he saw him. Good thing the lithium was found today, or else he would really not dare to come. Floating Pagoda. 1. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Seeing that Musu was in a good mood, the manager suddenly remembered something and quickly said, reporting Pavilion Master, there is one more thing. What is it? Asked Musu. A few days ago, the C family sent someone to deliver a letter and wanted me to hand it to you, the manager replied as he passed a letter that he carried along with him to Musu. The C family? Su was curious. Master C was one of the few who knew about Su's identity as the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Treasures. Su opened the letter, and his expression turned increasingly weird as he read on. Ye Kunthing, from the Ye family wants to see me. With a face of surprise, he instinctively glanced at the inner chamber in the elegant room. The man sitting inside the inner chamber frowned slightly. The manager noticed Su's gaze but did not have the nerves to look towards the inner chamber and further lowered his head instead. Su came along with another person yesterday night, and towards this person, even a person of high status like Su had to be very respectful. The manager could not help but recall that his master was loyal to the Antiquity Palace. Could it be that that person was the rumored god himself? As he thought about it, the manager did not dare to speculate any further, and watched his own words and actions. After hesitating for a moment, Su asked, "What is Ye Kunthang's relation to the Ye family?" When he went to see the young lady of the Ye family with his highness, he still did not know the girl's name and whether she was the said Ye Kunthing. The manager replied hurriedly, "Ye Kunthing is the young lady of the Ye family and the next successor of the Ye family. Other than Ye Kunthing, how many ladies are on the Ye residence now?" Su asked. The Ye family has 3 daughters in total. One of them is family master Ye's daughter, Ye Kunthing. Another is the great elder's granddaughter, Ye Yu. The last girl is an orphan whom the family master adopted, Ye Zun. Ye Yu left for Yingxiu sect not long ago, while Ye Zun usually resides in the manor outside the Ye family on normal days. Ye Kunthing should be the only lady of the Ye family on the residence now, the manager replied honestly. It really is her. Su's eyes widened slightly. The manager added on, "Actually, we could only find this lithium after Ye Kunthing provided us with its location. Lady Ye is currently still in the Pavilion of Treasures." Quote. At this point, Su really wanted to laugh. He suffered an internal injury in his early years and needed the lithium for treatment. After waiting for so many years, it was actually found with the help of the girl whom His Highness was searching for. Since she is a customer of my Pavilion of Treasures and she even helped me to find the lithium, I need to thank her well. From now on, whenever Ye Kunthing comes to my Pavilion of Treasures, all items will be sold at 20% discount to her, Su said generously and peeked at the inner chamber. Noted, the manager nodded his head as he noted to himself in surprise that the 20% discount which Su said was not only applicable to the store in Lin Town but all the Pavilion of Treasures branches over the world. God knows how many extremely pricey treasures there were in the Pavilion of Treasures. She could save a shocking amount with this discount. After hearing Su's orders, the manager exited the elegant room quietly. After the manager had finally left, the man in the inner chamber came out. The moment Su saw the man, he immediately stood up and knelt on the floor with one leg. "Your Highness." There was no hint of emotion on Ha Kangming's gorgeous face. As his deep set of eyes looked over at the letter from the C family, a deep voice sounded. "Agree to her request." Noted. "I will notify the C family now." Ha Kangming was the boss, and Su was to fulfill whatever he said. Using his feet to think, Su also predicted that His Highness would want him to agree to the request. However, he did not know why Ye Kunthang wanted to meet Floating Pagoda. 2. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Ye Kunthing, who was still seeking treasures in the Pavilion of Treasures, seemed to not notice that a pair of deep eyes were monitoring her every action from the highest floor. In the dark room of the Pavilion of Treasures, Su accompanied Ha Kangming to stand and monitor Ye Kunthing with a heart full of curiosity towards the alluring-looking girl. So this was whom the heart of the demon god was in? Su could not help but recall the question Ha Kangming asked him when they were leaving the Ye family yesterday night. His Highness wants to have a child with this kind of girl. Cough. Su secretly glanced at Ha Kangming, who had his eyes fixated on Ye Kunthing and did not realize what his subordinate was thinking at all. There were countless of precious treasures inside the Pavilion of Treasures. Since Ye Kunthing helped the pavilion to find the lithium and even got a mouth-watering discount, she would not hold herself back. The manager, who received Su's orders, was personally accompanying Ye Kunthing to take her pick. He had originally thought that Ye Kunthing would take this opportunity to choose a few valuable treasures, yet Ye Kanthing actually stopped in front of a counter nobody cared about. Is this the floating pagoda? Ye Kanthing asked while pointing at the emerald object, which was about the size of a cobblestone, displayed in the counter. Looking in the direction, the manager nodded his head. The floating pagoda was produced from a rank 5 spirit animal of which had an extremely strong combat power and needed a few hundred people to take it down successfully. However, the floating pagoda itself was of little value. Its hardness was such that it was difficult for weapons to cause it any damage. Furthermore, due to the difficulty in killing a rank 5 spirit animal, the floating pagoda had a hefty price tag. Up to this day, no one knew what the floating pagoda could be used for, and, thus, it was used as a decoration even though it was not as dazzling as gemstones. Other than a few family clans who would buy a few of this only to boast their wealth, nearly no one cared about the floating pagoda. Yet, Ye Kanthing was deeply attracted to those few floating pagodas. This item may be useless to others, but to her, it was extremely useful. How many floating pagodas do you have here? Asked Ye Kanthing. The manager did not understand why Ye Kanthing was interested in the total number of floating pagodas and dismissed it as an act of her curiosity. There are more than 10 of them in stock. This item was extremely hard to sell. The Pavilion of Treasures barely sold one every year and, thus, had large stocks of them. Touching her chin, she said with a glint of happiness in her eyes, I want them all. Quote ellipsis quote. The manager's eyes almost popped out. She wants all of them? Lady Ye, each one of these floating pagodas would cost 1,000 gold. Are you sure about this? Ye Kanthing nodded. Quote ellipsis quote. A look of confusion was etched on the manager's face. He had thought that after obtaining a 20% discount, Ye Kanthing would buy some valuable things back. Yet, who would have thought that this young lady wanted nothing but the floating pagoda, which was no different from a stone. All of these floating pagodas would cost over 10,000 gold. Buying a pile of useless rocks was simply a bloody loss. Before the manager was able to persuade her, Ye Kanthing placed 10 gold bricks on the counter. Now, he could not even utter a word. Helpless, the manager could only force himself to order people to bring out all the floating pagodas in the Pavilion of Treasures. A total of 17 floating pagodas amounted to 17,000 gold, and with Ye Kanthing's discount, it would cost 13,600 gold in total. Perhaps the manager thought the floating pagodas did her dirty. He generously rounded down the price to 13,000 gold. Even so, he still felt he was doing Ye Kanthing dirty. However, Ye Kanthing was full of smiles upon receiving the floating pagoda. 3. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Although people did not know the use of the floating pagoda now, news of it being able to nourish the spirit root would spread a few years later. The floating pagoda was one of the few treasures in the world that could nourish the spirit root. While its current price of 1,000 gold was expensive, the price shot up so rapidly upon the circulation of the news such that one floating pagoda was very difficult to be bought even with 10,000 gold. Hence, how was it a bloody loss to Ye Kanthing? She more than profited! Exclamation mark. I'll trouble you to let me purchase all the floating pagodas if there are any in the other branches of the Pavilion of Treasures, Ye Kanthing said with a smile. The Pavilion of Treasures had stores all over the world, and if she could work with all of them, she would not need to worry about the supply of the floating pagodas. However, the manager looked incredulous. Is young Lady Ye crazy? The manager did not dare to agree straight up and merely said he would consider while he made a mental note of Ye Kanthing's obsession towards the floating pagoda. Seeing as to how she bought such huge amounts, could it be that the floating pagoda had other benefits? Ye Kanthing was not in a hurry as well. 10 floating pagodas were enough for her to use for a while. Other than accumulating the floating pagodas, Ye Kanthing also purchased a scale of the fiery sunset beast. The fiery sunset beast was an extremely fierce spirit animal active in places covered with magma, and its scales were especially resistant against fire. However, due to the unparalleled large size and shockingly heavy weight of the scales, it was very difficult to build an armor out of it. Hence, only a few people would buy it. The manager trembled upon seeing Ye Kanthing's consecutive purchase of 2 invaluable items. He really could not figure out why she liked to only pick junk. To store the huge fiery sunset beast scales, Ye Kunthing also bought a space ring from the pavilion of treasures and stored everything she bought in it. Mu Su, who was observing her from a dark place with Ha Kangming, was perplexed as he watched Ye Kunthang's face full of happiness after buying a pile of junk. Your Highness, oh, Lady Ye's taste is really special. Mu Su's lips twitched a little as he carefully took a look at Ha Kangming. He did not purposely do Ye Kunthing dirty with all those junk. It was Ye Kunthing who bought them herself. He should not be blamed for this. Ha Kangming did not respond to Mu Su's attempt to prove his innocence and merely looked at Ye Kunthing meaningfully. Ye Kunthing, who had used her rebirth to her advantage to obtain a heap of treasures, was deeply satisfied. After looking around the pavilion of treasures, she did not see anything she needed and was ready to leave. Just as she walked to the door of the pavilion, she suddenly saw Si Bai and his servant, who were about to leave as well. It just so happened that Ye Kunthing was preparing to visit the Si family to check the condition Si Bai's body. Now that they have bumped into each other, it was convenient as they left the pavilion of treasures and headed towards the Si residence together. Quote ellipsis quote. Mu Su silently watched Ye Kunthing and the good-looking young man talking and laughing as they left. He turned around to look at His Highness. Ha Kangming was expressionless. Mu Su secretly pulled a long face. Your Highness, you should watch out. He mentally decided that he must find an opportunity to bring Ye Kunthing to His Highness the next time he sees Ye Kunthing. If you want to have a baby, shouldn't you take some action? I saw you buying quite a few floating pagodas in the scales of the fiery sunset beast just now. Si Bai asked Ye Kunthing along the way to the Si residence. He was quite curious about Ye Kunthang's stance when she was buying large quantities of the items in the pavilion of treasures. Si Bai had heard of the floating pagoda and scales of the fiery sunset beast but really did not know what was so special about them. Yes, Ye Kunthing replied with no intention of hiding. Toxin, 1, Translator, Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. In Ye Kunthang's previous life, many people had tried to find out the usage of these two items in. However, they only discovered it after many years. Ye Kunthing bought them in large quantities. People at the side were all very confused as they could not figure out why Ye Kunthang bought such useless items. Your preferences are really quite interesting. Si Bai chuckled but did not plan to ask for a reason. Soon, they arrived outside the door of the Si family. Just as they just stepped inside, Si Bai felt the atmosphere was not quite right. Ye Kunthing heard some noises before she arrived at the hall. Quote, Grandfather, second junior brother's condition is very serious. I shall talk to the Duan family for the flame-repellent pills. A deep male voice could be heard from the hall of the Si family. Master, Physician Zhu is treating your brother now. It'll be very difficult to ask the Duan family to hand over the flame-repellent pills. Though we seem to be in good terms with the Duan family, many things have happened secretly. Even if you go over, they'll not give the pills to you. Master of the Si family clan then spoke. His voice sounded hopeless. Si Bai exchanged a glance with Ye Kunthing. They then rushed into the hall. Besides the master of the Ye family clan, there was another handsome and tall young man in the hall. The young man and Si Bai looked alike, but he appeared to be more stable and full of spirit. Elder brother, Si Bai was stunned as he saw the young man. That young man was the eldest young master of the Si family and Si Bai's elder brother, Si Ye. You're back. Third brother, Si Ye nodded slightly as he saw Si Bai. How come you're back, brother? Just now, I heard you mentioning second brother. What happened to him? Si Bai spoke in a serious tone. The Si family only had the three brothers in the younger generation. Si Bai had been physically weak ever since he was young. The eldest brother Si Ye and the second eldest brother Si Kyung treated him with care all the time. The three brothers were in good relationships with each other. They were so close that nothing could separate them. Si Ye suddenly became very serious when Si Bai mentioned his second brother Si Kyung. He did not reply to Si Bai immediately but instead looked towards Master Si. Master Si sighed softly. Your brother was attacked by the fire beast and is suffering from the flame toxin. Master Physician Zhu is trying to treat him now. Si Bai was astonished. The flame toxin of the fire beast was very deadly. It would burn all the internal organs and could not be suppressed by any medicine. Anyone who suffered from the flame toxin had to bear with the internal burning until the end of their lives. The only way to neutralize the flame toxin was to take medicine made from the ice lotus located on the peaks of Yukong Mountain. Yukong Mountain was worlds apart from the Lin town. It would take at least a month to reach there and come back. Si Kyung would not be able to survive until then if the flame toxin circulated quickly. I have already sent people to obtain the ice lotus from Yukong Mountain. Now, I need to go to the Duan family to ask for their flame repellent pills, CA said and frowned. The flame repellent pills could suppress the spread of the flame toxin for a period of time. Only if the flame repellent pills stabilized the flame toxin in Si Kyung, there would be sufficient time to bring back the ice lotus. Brother, hey, flame repellent pill is the hereditary treasure of the Duan family. Even if you go over to the Duan family, I'm afraid that they would not give it to you. Sibai's face was pale but dignified. CA frowned. Of course, he knew about that. However, without the flame repellent pills, Si Kyung might be in danger. I can help to suppress the flame toxin. While everyone of the Si family was upset, a clear female voice could be heard. CA looked towards the direction the sound came from and noticed a young lady standing beside Sibai. May I know who is this lady? CA asked. This is Ye Kanthing, the young lady of the Ye family. Flame toxin. Replied. 2. Translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios CA's dignified expression suddenly turned sharp after hearing Ye Kanthang's identity. Brother, since when did you have connections with the Ye family? CA's voice was colder than before. CA was older than C. Bai and knew about how his mother passed away. He abhorred the Ye family who murdered his mother. Quote, "We do not welcome people from the Ye family here," CA said in a deep voice. Si Bai was about to explain, but Master C, who sat on the chair, said, "CA, do not be rude to our guest. Ye Kanthing is here to treat your third brother." CA was shocked. His eyesight gazed towards the skinny figure again. How could she treat my brother? She is so young. Master C frowned. Actually, when he first saw Ye Kanthing, he also did not expect that she could really treat Sibai. You do not need to ask about this. Now, what is important is the flame toxin in Si Kyung. Master C then turned and looked towards Ye Kanthing. Lady Ye, you said that you have a way to suppress the flame toxin? Master C's words made CA frown again. He could not understand why his grandfather, who always hated the Ye family, would now allow the young lady of the Ye family to treat his brother and enter the Si family freely. Ye Kanthing nodded and said, I just got something that could possibly treat the flame toxin. Is it the scale of the fiery sunset beast? Si Bai immediately recalled the scale of the fiery sunset beast Ye Kanthing bought from the treasure pavilion. Yes, Ye Kanthing said. Everyone's face changed when Ye Kanthing finished her words. Ye frowned heavily, trying to control his discontentment. Lady Ye, I don't know how you managed to convince my grandfather to allow you to treat my brother. However, I am afraid it's impossible to suppress the flame toxin with only the scale of the fiery sunset beast. The scales of the fiery sunset beast had very high heat resistance, but it was useless to people who suffered from the flame toxin. Unless one could crush it into powder and use it as medicine, it would be impossible for the scales to suppress the flame toxin in one's body. The scales of the fiery sunset beast were extremely hard. Almost no one in the world could break it. It would be totally impossible to crush it into powder. CA words represented the opinion of the Si family. Even Master C showed a trace of doubt on his face. Ye Kanthing scanned through the Si family and smiled in her heart. Since there is no other option, how will it matter to just let me try? Ye frowned. Master C took a deep breath and said, we shall give Lady Ye a chance to try. Grandfather, Ye disagreed strongly. Brother, Lady Ye's words make sense. Besides the flame repellent pills from the Duan family, we don't have any other way to suppress the flame toxin in second brother's body. We should try all possible ways to treat him. Si Bai also tried to convince him. Ye's expression was not very pleasant. He turned and looked towards Ye Kanthing with a complex sight. We shall rely on you now, girl. Master C felt constrained. Ye Kanthing nodded and said, please prepare an individual room for me. I need to make some preparations first, of course. Master C asked the servants to prepare a room. Immediately, Ye Kanthing entered the room alone and locked the door. Ye stood outside the room with Si Bai. He stared at the locked door and frowned.
Chapter
Brother,
33,
this is full of
flame
nonsense.
toxin.
3. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Sibai chuckled and said, Brother, don't worry about that. You see, aren't I much healthier than before? Siye examined Sibai. Sibai's face was still a bit pale, but his breath was more stable. I heard from grandfather that Ye Kunthing wrote 2 pieces of prescription for you. Yes. Siye sneered. This only meant that Ye Kunthing had the prescription for Sibai's sickness and did not prove that she had substantial medical skills. Sibai could observe his elder brother's deep hatred towards the Ye family and decided to keep quiet. The two of them stared at the room for a while and did not notice any sound coming out of the room. They then turned and walked towards Si Kyong's room. Si Ye was around when Si Kyong was attacked by the fire beast. He witnessed how his brother was hurt with his own eyes, and no one could understand how upset and regretful he was. Master Physician Zhu, how's my brother now? How much longer does he have? Si Ye was extremely anxious as he stared at his brother, whose face was extremely red as a result of the burning of the flame toxin. Master Physician Zhu's face was not pleasant as well. I don't want to lie to you. He has at most 3 days. If we still cannot find any way to suppress the flame toxin, then I'm afraid that he will not able to live any longer. Master Physician Zhu's words weighed like a heavy stone on the two brothers' hearts. Master Physician Zhu, is there any way to use the scale of the fiery sunset beast as medicine? Sibai said. Master Physician Zhu smiled dryly at him and said, the scales of the fire beast can suppress the flame toxin. However, I have never heard about anyone who was actually able to use that as medicine. It's extremely difficult to use the scale, which is harder than a rock. Siye glanced towards Sibai after hearing his words. Sibai understood what his brother meant, but he did not plan to say anything. He was not sure whether Ye Kunthing could achieve that as well. Why do you ask about that? Third young master, Master Physician Zhu said. Sibai was about to explain, but Siye, who could not control his discontent anymore, said coldly, the young lady of the Ye family just now said that she could use the scales of the fire beast to suppress the flame toxin in my brother's body. Master Physician Zhu was stunned after hearing his words. While Siye thought that Master Physician Zhu would criticize Ye Kunthing, Master Physician Zhu suddenly sighed in relief. If it's Lady Ye, I think it is possible. Master Physician Zhu's words revealed his high opinion of Ye Kunthing. Quote. Ye did not expect that even a professional physician like Master Physician Zhu would approve with what Ye Kunthing was about to do. Sibai could only sigh as he saw that things did not go as his brother had wished. Ye Kunthing came to the Si family quite often these few days. She had multiple discussions with Master Physician Zhu on medicine skills. Master Physician Zhu had shown his admiration towards Ye Kunthing all the time. When everyone was still waiting, Ye Kunthing finally appeared in Si Kyong's room with a small porcelain bottle. Lady Ye, Master Physician Zhu greeted Ye Kunthing once he saw her. Ye Kunthing nodded slightly and ignored the sharp stare from Si Ye. She looked towards Si Kyong on the bed. Si Kyong was suffering from the flame toxin and bearing with the heat around his whole body. He had gone into a coma due to the high heat. How's he doing? Ye Kunthing stepped forward and asked. Master Physician Zhu shook his head slightly to show that the situation was not very optimistic. Ye Kunthing checked out Si Kyong's condition. The layers of bandages on his left chest was soaked with blood. Ye Kunthing took a glance and rolled her sleeves up. Master Physician Zhu, help me remove the bandages on his chest. Ye Kunthing asked. Flame toxin. 4. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Just as Master Physician Zhu was about to step forward, Siye used his body to block his way and held Ye Kunthang's hand that was trying to remove the bandages. My brother is heavily injured on his chest. What do you want to do to remove the bandages now? Siye shouted coldly. Ye Kunthing raised her eyes, and they met the beast-like eyes of Siye. She smiled slightly and said, you can drag on longer if you want your brother to continue to suffer from the flame toxin. Siye frowned and appeared to be very fierce. Young master, Lady Ye is very skilled. If she wants to do something, she must have full confidence in her herself. How about we just let her try? Master Physician Zhu helped to explain. It should be you who gives a try, Master Physician Zhu. I cannot put any faith in her. She is still too young. Ye said, staring at Ye Kangting. He was not convinced by her age, and furthermore, she was from the Ye family. He would never trust anyone from the Ye family. Bai felt a slight headache. His brother's temper was exactly the same as his grandfather's. Both of them were extremely stubborn. Bai decided to convince his brother to leave. However, at that moment, Ye Kangting suddenly flipped her hand. Her long and elegant fingers rotated to the top and gripped Ye's arm straight away, leaving no time for Ye to react. She then kicked Ye at the area below his arm. Ye did not expect that the young lady in front of him would attack him. He could not even imagine that Ye Kangting would be so fast and swift. Crack! Ye Kangtang's one kick dislocated Ye's arm. I need to save your brother now. I don't have time to talk to you. Ye Kangting then threw Ye out and said to Bai, watch your brother for me. Bai was speechless, but he still rushed forward and held Ye from behind. Brother, you should let her try. I shall vouch for her. Ye felt the pain from his arm, but he was afraid that he would hurt Bai, so he just stared angrily at Ye Kangting. He could not understand why his family would suddenly trust a person from the Ye family so much. Ye Kangting tore away the bandages swiftly. The wound burnt by flames was very serious. Ye Kangting squinted her eyes and took out a dagger from her waist. She then immediately made a cut on Kyong's chest with the dagger around the wound. Everyone in the room was shocked by the scene. Bai also did not imagine that Ye Kangting would do that. His hands that were holding Ye relaxed. Ye instantly raged like a beast after he witnessed that his brother's chest was cut by Ye Kangting. He literally wanted to rip her apart. However, when Master Physician Zhu saw Ye Kangting pouring red powder onto Kyong's chest from a porcelain bottle, he immediately went forward and stopped Ye. Young master, Lady Ye is using the scale of the fiery sunset beast to suppress the flame toxin. Do not worry. Scale of the fiery sunset beast? Ye was stunned when he heard that. It was I who had too little knowledge. I can't imagine that Lady Ye really was able to crush the scale of the fiery sunset beast into powder. Master Physician Zhu said with great admiration. Ye Kangting was indeed very young, but she always had something that could amaze him even as a master. 35. Flame Physician. Toxin. 5. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. I think Lady Ye had preparations done beforehand. It would have taken much longer if we used the powder as medicine. Now that she used the powder directly on the wound of the flame toxin, it would suppress the flame toxin straight away. This kind of method, I have never seen this before. Master Physician Zhu expressed his amazement. Ye stared at Ye Kangting. His eyes were puzzled and full of suspicion. After she poured the entire bottle of the powdered scale of the fiery sunset beast, the burnt skin began recovering at an unbelievable speed. Kyong's body temperature was going back to normal, and his breath became more relaxed. It was as if a miracle was happening in front of Ye's eyes. Ye Kangting withdrew her hands after pouring all the powder. She kept her porcelain bottle and said, the powder can suppress the flame toxin for the time being. However, if you want to neutralize the flame toxin completely, you need to bring back the ice lotus. Ye took a glance at Ye Kangting with a complex expression. He then asked Master Physician Zhu to take a look at Kyong, but he was calmer than before. Master Physician Zhu checked out Kyong's situation, and it matched with what Ye Kangting had said. The flame toxin in second young master is stable now. It shouldn't be a great problem anymore. Ye sighed in relief secretly after knowing that the flame toxin in Kyong was in control. However, Ye's eyes were now full of embarrassment as he met with Ye Kangtang's eyes, which seemed to be smiling. His handsome face was a bit stiff. Lady Ye, I am sorry for just now, Ye said in a stiff manner. Even though he did not wish to admit it, Ye Kangting really did save his brother's life. Ye Kangting smiled and did not say much. It was not easy to become friends with everyone in the C family. If not because of that, she would not even bother to save people. Again and again, Ye still felt embarrassed and said, I shall tell grandfather about this. He then left straight away. Ye came to the main hall and told Master C about Kyong's recovery. Master C showed a complex expression after knowing it was done by Ye Kangting. He remained silent for a while and said, we owe her another favor now. Grandfather, what happened with Ye Kangting? Quote, CA was still very confused. Master C glanced at his grandson, who was always very calm, and explained slowly how Ye Kunthing had saved Si Bai in order to meet Musu. He also told him about what Ye Kunthing had gone through in the Ye family. Ye was shocked by his words. Ye, we do owe her a great favor. Master C's face was very serious. He abandoned his prejudice towards Ye Kunthing when she saved Si Bai. Now, he really trusted the poor girl from the Ye family, since she also managed to save Si Kyung from the flame toxin. 2 lives were saved because of Ye Kunthing. Ye contemplated for a while. Master C suddenly noticed Ye's injured arm. What's wrong with your arm? Ye was confused, but then remembered that his arm was dislocated by Ye Kunthing. He smiled and fixed his dislocated arm. It's a lesson for me. Grandfather, I was rude towards Lady Ye just now. I shall apologize to her later, Ye said. Master C waved his hand and said, Ye Kunthing is young, but she is more mature than others in her age. She won't bother about that. Just remember, we must treat her well in worship ceremony. 1. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Previously, Master C was unwilling to be involved in the internal fighting within the Ye family. However, his heart was wavering now. If the great elder of the Ye family returned and were to harm Ye Kunthing, the C family would not sit about and do nothing. Ye nodded. Master Physician Zhu was ready to consult Ye Kunthing on how to grind the scales of the fiery sunset beast into powder, but she cleverly changed the topic to something else. She did not intend to casually let out the fact that she had paid advantage of Rebirth. She had used 2 lives to trade for the C family's trust. This was all expected. Step by step, she already had it all planned this lifetime. After leaving the C family, Ye Kunthing went straight back to the Ye family. She took out the floating pagoda in her space ring and started cultivating with a calm heart. Regardless of her external support, she still had to rely on herself and collect the blood debt from her past life. The days passed by quickly, and Lin Town welcomed a significant gathering. The worship ceremony represented an auspicious omen where family clans in Lin Town prayed for the happiness of all citizens. During the ceremony, family clan members would proceed to the worship stage and contribute to the prosperity of Lin Town. On the day of the worship ceremony, Lin Town was decorated with lanterns and festoons, along with a tall and huge worship stage in the central public square. Although it was not yet time for the worship, citizens had already proceeded towards the worship stage early to wait for the start of the ceremony. On the wide worship stage stood a spinning wheel made from giant dragon stones. Its carvings were clearly visible. A few lifelike giant dragons were carved on the spinning wheel as if it would spring out alive the next moment. This spinning wheel had been passed down for centuries. Hundreds of years ago, Lin Town had been met with natural disasters, and its people had no means of survival. Suddenly, a mighty figure appeared. In order to suppress the disaster, he took great pains to find the giant dragon stone and hundreds of craftsmen, and after months of crafting, the stone turned into a spinning wheel. Whenever the spinning wheel was spinning, the emitted dragon's breath would suppress the evil and shower the town with blessings. For hundreds of years, Lin Town had been safe, and the worship ceremony was passed down to the citizens. This was an act of seeking blessings for Lin Town from heaven, but in the eyes of the family clans, the worship ceremony was a battlefield. To showcase their power, the spinning wheel was extremely heavy, and one had to be at least of Kanate level 5 to spin the wheel. Each family clan took turns to spin the wheel, and a clan's power was measured by the number of times the wheel was spun by the disciples. Amongst the Duan, Ye, and C family clan, I wonder which clan's disciple will be able to spin the most number of times in the worship ceremony this year, noted the citizens as they waited for the start of the ceremony. Quote, there are outstanding disciples in all 3 great family clans. Previously, the Ye family had the greatest chance of winning, as the young lady of the Ye family, Ye Kunthing, had a supreme grade spirit root. Her talent could not be compared to those of ordinary people, and only Si Bai from the C family could compete with her. Although Si Bai was very talented, he was born with a weak body. He didn't participate in the spinning of the wheel in previous years, and I reckon he won't participate this year as well. Ye Kunthing, I thought I heard that her spirit root broke. Yes, it broke. That's why it's such a pity. However, I heard that there was another lady in the Ye family, Ye Yu, who was accepted into Yingxiu sect as a disciple some time ago. It seems that even though the Ye family lost Ye Kangting, they gained Ye Yu. However, Ye Yu has been accepted as a disciple by the Yingxiu sect master and has headed for the Yingxiu sect. She probably
Chapter
will not
37.
participate worship
This year.
ceremony. 2. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. In the previous years, either Ye Yu or Ye Zan would go on the worship stage. It seems like Ye Zan will be sent on stage today now that Ye Yu isn't here. Although Ye Zan is adopted by the Ye family, she has pretty good qualifications, a good nature and an outstanding appearance. It is suitable for her to go up the worship stage. The public discussed privately. During their conversation, the worship ceremony was about to start, and people from the three great family clans arrived at the side of the worship stage. Drums sounded below the stage, marking the official start of the worship ceremony. CA was the first to walk up the worship stage. Standing in front of the heaven spinning wheel, he prayed for blessing and subsequently raised his hands, directing all his strength to spin the extremely heavy heaven spinning wheel. The huge heaven spinning wheel turned. Hearing a loud dragon groan, everyone below the stage prayed for blessings with devotion while their eyes were locked on the heaven spinning wheel, which was still spinning. After spinning 2 rounds, the massive heaven spinning wheel stopped. Other than its weight, the heaven spinning wheel's change points were very stiff as it had been passed down for hundreds of years. It was not just ordinarily difficult to spin. The wheel, spinning just 1 round, was already very strenuous to ordinary cultivators. Hence, the fact that CA spun it for 2 rounds naturally attracted much praise. As expected of the eldest young master of the C family, his strength is indeed impressive. Below the worship stage, Duan Tianrao expressionlessly watched CA walk down from the stage. Duan Tianrui, who was beside him, was full of smiles as he said to Duan Tianrao silently, "Second brother, I see that there is nothing great about CA. He is at most at Kanate level 5. You have just made a breakthrough to Kanate level 6 last month. You can beat him effortlessly." Duan Tianrao's lips tugged up while his gaze directly looked past CA and onto the good-looking C Bai below the stage. The real genius in the C family was not CA, but C Bai. Although C Bai had not revealed his strength before, CA was not even comparable to him based solely on talent. The only person who Duan Tianrao actually wanted to beat had always been C Bai. Yet, it was a pity that C Bai did not seem to intend on participating. After CA came down from the worship stage, it was the Duan family's turn to go on stage. With a jump, Duan Tianrao flew up to the stage. When Duan Tianrao's tall figure appeared on the worship stage, many looks of admiration from young girls below the stage landed on him. In Lin town, C Bai's appearance was the most outstanding among the males of the C family. However, C Bai had a weak body and rarely left the house. So instead, it was Duan Tianrao, who had a nice tall figure and a handsome appearance, who received the admiration of many ladies in the town. Standing beside the heaven spinning wheel and fixing his eyes on the wheel, he directed his energy all at once and spun the heaven spinning wheel with all his might. In an instant, the heaven spinning wheel turned. As it was turning, the citizens below the stage suddenly widened their eyes. Under Duan Tianrao, the massive heaven spinning wheel actually spun 3 rounds. This was exactly 1 round more than the number of rounds CA spun previously. It was the highest count in recent years. Quote, "Second young master Duan's strength has improved again. Second young master Duan is certainly the successor of the next Duan family master. This kind of strength is not comparable to that of an ordinary person." Although Duan Tianrao maintained his usual expression, a hint of glee flashed in his eyes. Turning around to face the masses below the stage, he cupped one hand in the other and announced, "To be able to pray for Lin Town's blessings today is my honor. On this day, I have to worship ceremony." 3. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios Ye Ling, who was amongst the crowd below the stage, had a darkened expression. He instinctively looked towards Ye Kangting beside him with eyes full of worry. Everyone was still waiting for Duan Tianrao to speak. Glancing at the crowd, he announced without further ado, "Today, may everyone witness that the engagement between Ye Kangting and me is cancelled. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other." The moment his words were said, gasps sounded throughout the public square. Duan Tianrao actually wants to cancel his engagement with Ye Kangting? What is going on? Isn't he embarrassing the Ye family in public? Everyone was shocked by the surprising news. The Duan and Ye family are both part of the three greatest family clans, and the engagement between both families had long been a relish to people. Yet, Duan Tianrao actually announced the annulment of his engagement with Ye Kangting today. Ye Lin's expression turned extremely ugly. However, he was aware that if he were to make trouble, Ye Kangting would still be the one to suffer. Thus, he could only suppress his anger. For now, Duan Tianrao observed everyone's response without caring much and continued, "This is the first piece of news. The second piece is that Lady Ye Zun from the Ye family and I are in love with each other and will be spending the rest of our lives together." As he spoke, he turned around to look at Ye Zun, who was standing beside Duan Tianrui below the worship stage. Following his gaze, everyone's eyes turned towards Ye Zun. Ye Zun was donned in a beautiful-looking white top. A faint smile which moved people was etched on her exquisite small face. "Zun, come up." Duan Tianrao looked at Ye Zun, who was even more beautiful with the elaborate makeup, and stretched his hands towards her. With everyone's eyes on her, she walked up the worship stage with a shy smile and stood beside Duan Tianrao while holding his hands. "Zun, you are now my fiancé and will be a member of the Duan family in the future. On the worship day today, how about you pray for blessings for the citizens as a member of the Duan family as well?" Duan Tianrao looked at Ye Zun with gentle and doting eyes. Ye Zun nodded her head obediently. Her gentle and appealing appearance stunned many. Everyone in Ling town knew that the top beauty in the town was Ye Yu from the Ye family. No one expected Ye Zun to be this beautiful as well. Standing beside Duan Tianrao in a white top, the two of them looked like a golden couple, picture perfect. Lady Ye Zun was born with good looks and is really compatible with second young master Duan. Everyone was stunned by the two announcements Duan Tianrao made. Just an instant ago, he broke off the engagement with Ye Kangting, and in the next, he professed his love for the Ye family's adopted daughter, Ye Zun, with whom his engagement was publicly announced. However, although everyone thought that Duan Tianrao's sudden annulment of his engagement with Ye Kangting was unexpected, they felt that the golden couple on stage was even more compatible. Even though Ye Zun was adopted by the Ye family, she was very pretty and treated everyone well. Such a lady was naturally the most suitable choice as a wife in the hearts of many men. "Since it's what darling Duan wants, I'll give it a try," Ye Zun said humbly with a face full of smiles which infatuated many onlooking men. Duan Tianrao nodded slightly and silently took a step back. Ye Zun quietly directed her energy and took a sharp look at the heaven-spinning wheel in front of her. At that point, she was no longer the adopted daughter of the Ye family but Duan Tianrao's fiancée and the future mistress of the heaven-spinning wheel. 1. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. When she thought up to that point, Ye Zun immediately spun the heaven-spinning wheel. Ye Zun's force did not seem to be much, but the direction of her energy did turn the wheel. In an instant, the heaven-spinning wheel spun a whole round. When the dragon groan sounded, Ye Zun could not help but smile. Seeing the scene, a look of satisfaction flashed across Duan Tianrao's eyes. "I never expected Ye Zun to actually improve so much. I remember that when she spun the heaven-spinning wheel last year, she only managed to spin half a round. Who would have thought she actually was able to spin the wheel for one whole round this year?" No wonder Duan Tianrao would like Ye Zun this much. With her natural talent and beautiful appearance, if Duan Tianrao becomes the family master of the Duan family, Ye Zun will also have the qualifications to be the mistress of the Duan family. Everyone was optimistic about Ye Zun and increasingly thought that Duan Tianrao's annulment of his previous engagement to marry another woman was reasonable. However, now that Ye Zun has gone on to the stage as a member of the Duan family, what will happen to the Ye family? Uncertainty aroused in everyone's minds. In the previous years, the Ye family had always sent either Ye Yu or Ye Zun up to the worship stage. However, now that Ye Yu left for Yingxiu sect and Ye Zun went up the stage as a member of the Duan family, was not the Ye family only left with Ye Kangting? If it was in the past, it was without a doubt that Ye Kangting would go up the stage. However, now that Ye Kantang's spirit root was broken, how would she be able to turn the heaven-spinning wheel? At that thought, everyone's gaze could not help but be directed towards where the Ye family was. Under everyone's watch, Ye Ling's face darkened to a shocking shade. Although he knew that Duan Tianrao would cancel the engagement publicly, he never expected that Duan Tianrao actually got together with Ye Zan and would publicly announce his engagement with Ye Zan. At this instant, Ye Ling had no time to attend to the onlooker's gaze and hurriedly looked at Ye Kanting beside him with mixed feelings. He originally planned to send Ye Zan up the worship stage, yet he never expected such a turn of events. Tang tang. Ye Ling's eyes were full of worry. Only the younger generation of the three greatest family clans could go up the stage. Even if he wanted to go on stage, the rules did not allow him to do so. Now, there was only Ye Kanting. From the start, Ye Kanting had been standing beside Ye Ling silently. Even when Duan Tianrao announced his engagement with Ye Zan, she had no reaction at all. Ye Kanting saw Ye Ling's worry-filled eyes, and she could not help but look down. Taking a deep breath, Ye Ling said, Tang Tang, you'll represent the Ye family and go up the stage. If not for the fact that there was no one else, Ye Ling would definitely not let his daughter go up the stage in front of everyone. He was not concerned whether Ye Kanting could turn the heaven-spinning wheel. All he wanted was to end the worship ceremony as soon as possible. Sending Ye Kanting up was merely an act of formality. Ye Kanting nodded her head obediently as a sly expression flashed across her slightly droopy eyes. Lifting her eyelids, she glanced across at Duan Tianrao and Ye Zan, who were standing side by side on stage, as her lips covered under the veil curled into a slight smile. The next second, Ye Kanting slowly took a step forward and walked towards the worship stage. This attracted the attention of many onlookers. Everyone had mixed expressions. Before Ye Kanting's spirit root broke, she had never gone up the worship stage. Even on normal days, young Lady Ye rarely left the Ye residence. Today was the first time Ye Kanting appeared Heaven Spinning Wheel. 2. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Ye Zan looked around at everyone and fixed her eyes on Ye Kanting, who was gradually walking towards the worship stage. A hint of mockery flashed in her eyes, but she concealed it quickly before anyone could see it. Darling Duan, Tang Tang. Ye Zan purposely looked at Duan Tianrao with an awkward expression. Yet, Duan Tianrao shook his head and said, that is the Ye family's business and has nothing to do with you. I'll marry you next year. Now, you're no longer considered as a complete member of the Ye family. You don't need to be worried about the Ye family's business. Duan Tianrao looked satisfactorily at Ye Kantang's awareness of the situation to not blow matters up. However, it was only that much. He was not a tiny bit concerned about whether Ye Kanting could spin the heaven spinning wheel and whether she would embarrass the Ye family. As Ye Kanting stood on the worship stage, Duan Tianrao held Ye Zan by her waist directly and went down the stage. Only Ye Kanting was left standing on the wide worship stage. Second brother, did the Ye family really send Ye Kanting up the stage? Given her current condition, it would be weird if she could turn the heaven spinning wheel, Duan Tianrui said without covering up his malice as he looked at Ye Kanting on stage. Quote, Tianrui, just be quiet. Ye Zan frowned slightly with a helpless expression. Duan Tianrui replied, Sister-in-law, your temper is too good. When you wanted me to search for the flower moonstone the other day, it was arrogantly snatched away by Ye Kanting. And now, you're still worried for her. Because of that good temper of yours. Ye Zan bit her lips and lowered her eyes, intentionally hiding the pride in her eyes. Zan, Tianrui is right. Regardless of anything, sending Ye Kanting to the worship stage was a choice made by the Ye family. This has nothing to do with you. There's no need to blame yourself for it. Duan Tianrui could not help but comfort her when he saw that the beauty was worried. That's right. Just watch the show, sister-in-law. Why worry about her? Duan Tianrui echoed. Ye Zan finally nodded her head in silence. No one knew that deep down in her heart, she was all but worrying for Ye Kintang. Raising her eyelids to look at Ye Kanting on stage, a hint of mockery flashed in Ye Zan's eyes. Ye Kanting stood on the worship stage alone and looked at the huge heaven spinning wheel before her with no change in expression. Below the worship stage, citizens quietly shook their heads as they saw that Ye Kanting had no intention of taking any Action. Given Ye Kangthang's current condition, how could she even turn the heaven-spinning wheel? However, it was a pity that no one else from the Ye family could go onto the stage. If Ye Zan were not engaged to Duan Tianrao, she could go up the stage as a member of the Ye family, and Ye Kangthang would not have to do something she could not do. However, just as everyone thought that Ye Kangthang simply could not turn the heaven-spinning wheel at all, the corner of Ye Kangthang's lips hidden under the veil curled up into a smile. She suddenly raised her small pair of fair hands, held the sides of the heaven-spinning wheel, and fiercely exerted her force with a cold light flashing across her eyes. A loud dragon groan filled the air and instantly pierced everyone's eardrums. Ye Kangthang was actually able to turn the huge heaven-spinning wheel in front of everyone. Furthermore, the heaven-spinning wheel spun at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it spun 2 whole rounds, only slowing down at the 3rd round. Finally, on the completion of the 4th round, the large heaven-spinning wheel stopped turning. The dragon groan vanished as followed. The public square fell into a dead silence instantly. Everyone stared with their mouths agape and looked at Ye Kangthang, who was standing beside the heaven-spinning wheel. How could this heaven-spinning wheel? 3. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios, is there something wrong with my eyes? That Ye Kangthang actually spun the heaven-spinning wheel for 4 whole rounds? 4 rounds. Could it be that Ye Kangthang is already at Khanate level 7? But, isn't her spirit root broken already? Sounds of disbelief exploded in the crowd like a thunder's rumble. They originally thought that Ye Kangthang would not be able to spin the heaven-spinning wheel at all, but she actually turned 4 whole rounds before their eyes. This was 1 full round more than Duan Tianrao, who spun 3 rounds a while ago. At this instant, everyone was completely shocked by what they saw. Ye Ling, who was below the stage, widened his eyes in disbelief. He never expected that his own daughter could actually turn the heaven-spinning wheel, and it was for 4 whole rounds. Ye Zan, who initially wanted to watch Ye Kangthang embarrass herself, purposefully feigned a gentle smile, which froze on her face after seeing that Ye Kangthang spun 4 whole rounds. How could it be? How could Ye Kangthang possibly be at Khanate level 7? Wasn't her spirit root broken already? Slightly alarmed, Ye Zan instinctively looked at Duan Tianrao beside her, and shock was written on his face as predicted. Duan Tianrao never expected that Ye Kangthang's strength exceeded his by 1 whole level. Duan Tianrui was also dumbfounded by what he saw. Looking at Ye Kangthang, who stood naturally beside the heaven-spinning wheel while the crowd was in exclamation, a look of detest shone across his eyes uncontrollably. While everyone was in a state of shock, Duan Tianrui suddenly spoke. Young Lady Ye, today is the day of worship, and the 3 great family clans have gathered to pray for blessings for the citizens of Lin Town. However, you are wearing a veil and are unwilling to show people your face. Isn't that a disrespect to the worship ceremony? Quote. The moment Duan Tiandi's words were said, everyone suddenly returned to their senses and realized only then that Ye Kangthang had been wearing a veil all this while. Then, everyone's expression turned weird inevitably. Ye Kangthang's ability is indeed shocking. What's the point in having strength? Don't you know that young Lady Ye is infamous for being an ugly lady? Otherwise, why would Duan Tianrao annul his engagement with her? A girl's ability is not the most important, her appearance remains the top priority. No matter how powerful she is, it would be hard for her to be the mistress of the family if she had an unsightly appearance. Rather, I feel that Ye Zan's ability is strong enough, and she is very beautiful in addition. It's this kind of girl that makes people love them. Under Duan Tiandi's words, everyone's attention swiftly changed from Ye Kangthang's abilities to her appearance. It was not weird for everyone to be this curious. Ye Kangthang had always been facing people with a veil on. As the young lady of the Ye family, if she wasn't ugly, why would she need to cover up like this? The sound of discussion rang through the crowd constantly, and the shock on Duan Tianrao's face had already faded somewhat. Instinctively looking at Ye Zan, who was as beautiful as a flower, his astonishment slowly faded. Seeing that his plan succeeded, Duan Tianrui could not help but feel even more pleased. He looked at Ye Kangthang, who had not once opened her mouth, and firmly believed that she did not have the courage to face anyone due to her ugly appearance. With that thought in mind, he was energized instantly. Lady Ye, since you are praying for blessings for everyone, shouldn't you remove this veil to show that the Ye family truly does regard the worship ceremony as an important event? Ye Kanthing looked coldly at Duen Tianrui, who was inciting trouble and agitating the people, and her lips curled into a gossip. Sneer. 1. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios, you want me to remove my veil? Ye Kanthing said suddenly. Duen Tianrui replied, it is not me who wants it, but the protocol of the worship ceremony cannot be broken. Rest assured, Lady Ye. We are only concerned about the worship ceremony and will not be concerned if you are not good looking. Duen Tiandi's words may have sounded nice, but everyone could hear that his words were clearly aimed to expose Ye Kanthang's ugly appearance. On the side, Duen Tianrao and Ye Zan did not have any intention to stop this. Ye Kanthing scoffed and looked towards an increasingly insolent Duen Tianrui. As per your wish. Then, Ye Kanthing suddenly raised her hands and removed the veil that she had worn for over 10 years. As the veil was gradually taken off, the central square was filled with loud gasps. A remarkably beautiful face suddenly appeared before everyone's eyes. The exquisite features were all God's most pleased artworks. Her skin was fair as snow, and her rosy lips curled into a charming smile. The moment she smiled, it was as though everything else had paled into insignificance. No one expected that such an alluring beauty was hidden under the thin veil. What do you think, third young master? Duen, are you satisfied now? Ye Kanthing smiled. Everyone's spirit seemed to be enchanted by her smile as they forgot everything and could only look at the extremely gorgeous face with infatuation. Duen Tianrui was completely dumbfounded. Even if you were to beat him to death, he would definitely not expect Ye Kanthang's appearance to be this stunning. Compared to Ye Kanthing, Ye Zan, who had previously been praised for her outstanding beauty, was as unbearably ordinary as a village girl. Even the rumored top beauty of Lin Town, Ye Yu, was inferior to Ye Kanthing. Duen Tianrui was dumbfounded, and both he and Ye Zan wore weird expressions. Ye Zan immediately turned pale. If she hadn't witnessed it for herself, she would never believe that the extremely alluring lady before her was actually Ye Kanthing. How could it be? She clearly remembered. Ye Kanthing had a weird and ugly birthmark on her face. Stunned, Duen Tianrao looked at the stunningly beautiful lady on stage. Under the sun, Ye Kanthing was like a fairy who landed in the mortal world whose beauty could not be compared to. Not good looking? Who said that young lady Ye was ugly just now? If you still call this appearance ugly, is there even any beauty in this world then? The citizens stirred. They had never seen such a good-looking lady before. With Lady Ye's appearance, only she is worthy of the title as Lin Town's top beauty. Everyone praised Ye Kanthang's looks. Now, thinking back to Duen Tiandi's sarcasm from a while ago, they felt that he was narrow-minded and had gradually pressured her to unveil herself due to his evil intention to embarrass her. Yet, unexpectedly, Ye Kanthing was simply an outstanding beauty. At that instant, everyone started to ponder. Previously, they thought that Duen Tianrao cancelled his engagement with Ye Kanthing because her spirit root broke and was not powerful enough. In addition, she was ugly and he could bear no longer. But now, looking at the stunningly gorgeous Ye Kanthing on stage, plus the fact that spun 4 full rounds of the heaven spinning wheel, everyone's thoughts were no longer that simple. In ability and appearance, how was Ye Zan better than Ye Kanthing? Unless he was crazy, why would Duen Tianrao give up on the engagement with Ye Kanthing and turn to marry Ye Zan instead? 43. Comments. Gossip. 41. 2. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Just when everyone was caught up in their discussions, a tall and straight figure suddenly walked up the worship stage and straight towards Ye Kanthang's side. Everyone fixed their eyes on the youth who stood beside Ye Kanthing. Wasn't that the talented and elegant third young master Si Bai from the Si family? Tang, why waste time here now that the worship ceremony has ended? Grandfather ordered me to bring you back today to play chess with him, Si Bai said with a smile as he looked at Ye Kanthing affectionately. All right. Without paying attention to everyone's gaze, Ye Kanthing nodded with a smile and walked down the worship stage with Si Bai. What is going on? Third young master Si is actually on friendly terms with Lady Ye. Didn't you hear what third young master Si addressed Lady Ye as just now? Tang. Seems like their relationship is not ordinary. Hasn't the Si and Ye family always been on bad terms? Why would the C family's family master invite Ye Kanthing to go to the C residence? A string of questions rose up in everyone's minds as Ye Kanthing and Sibai walked down the stage together. The sight of the beautiful Ye Kanthing and the handsome Sibai walking together was like a painting that pleased one's eyes. Everyone knew that Sibai had an indifferent personality and rarely interacted with anyone out of the C family, yet he publicly invited Ye Kanthing to his residence today. Furthermore, Sibai and Ye Kanthing seemed to share a close relationship. Could it be? Instinctively, everyone turned to look at a stiff-looking Duan Tianrao below the stage. Previously, they thought that Duan Tianrao initiated the breaking of his engagement to Ye Kanthing because he disliked Ye Kanthing. However, now it seemed that things were not that way. Duan Tianrao was outstanding, but when compared to Sibai, he was no competition at all. Could it be that the annulment of the engagement wasn't initiated by Duan Tianrao? Could it be because of Ye Kanthing and Sibai's close relationship that she broke off the engagement? Yeah, there's no way. If you were Duan Tianrao, would you be willing to give up such an extraordinary beauty like Ye Kanthing and marry Ye Zun? The second choice? You must be blind if you choose Ye Zun. Sibai is way better than Duan Tianrao. I pitied Ye Kanthing just now, but should I pity Duan Tianrao now? A burst of discussion filled the crowd. At this point, no one believed that it was Duan Tianrao who initiated to cancel the engagement. Duan Tianrao's face turned to a shade of green and white. The sound of the discussions which traveled to his ears was like endless ridicule. The humiliation that should have happened to Ye Kanthing all happened to him instead. Darling Duan, Ye Zun anxiously looked at Duan Tianrao's frozen side profile with worry. Duan Tianrao took a deep breath and turned around. Let's go, he said without even looking at Ye Zun. Shock filled her, but she could only hang her head low and leave with Duan Tianrui and Duan Tianrao. From that day on, Duan Tianrao became the biggest joke in Lin Town. Before leaving the worship stage, Ye Kanthing told her father Ye Ling that she was going to the C residence. Ye Ling was in an extremely good mood. So, of course, he would give in to her. Once he gave Ye Kanthing his permission, he went back to the Ye residence in high spirits. Let's see who would still dare to say that his daughter was ugly from then on. Ye Kanthing, Sibai, and Ye returned to the C residence together immediately. At C residence's hall, are master's words true? Ye Kanthing, who was called to the C residence, asked with widened eyes. Unable to hide her smile, her lips tugged up. Master C nodded slightly and replied delightedly, I called you here today to let you know that Lord Musu has agreed to meet you. He should be in Lin Town in Gossip 3. Translator, Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. Ye Kanthing saved 2 people from the C family. If Musu did not agree, it would be difficult for Master C to tell Ye Kanthing about it. It was good that everything was successful. Thank you very much, Master. This time, Ye Kanthing thanked him from her heart. If not for the C family's connections, she would not have a opportunity to interact with a powerful figure like Musu. As long as she could see Musu, she could officially begin on her plan. There's no need to thank me, Master C said with a smile. Kanthing, you're no longer a stranger to the C family. From now on, don't address me as Master anymore. Just grandfather, like my grandsons will do. A hint of a smile flashed in her eyes as she said, with a clear voice, yes, Grandfather C. Master C could not help but let out a cheerful laugh, while remembering to say, Kanthing, allow Grandfather C to be long-winded. Since you wish to meet Lord Musu, you must meet him with an honest heart. Lord Musu is open-minded and dislikes it when others scheme against him. You must remember this. All right. Ye Kanthing knew that Master C was reminding her. Praise filled Master C's eyes. Even though Ye Kanthing came from the Ye family which he disliked, it could not be denied that the more he interacted with Ye Kanthing, the more he liked the intelligent and alert girl. In her, he could not see a single trace of clumsiness and ignorance. Despite these being the characteristics of people her age, Master C even intended for Ye Kanthing to stay and have a meal, but she politely rejected the offer. Since there is news from Musu, she should start her preparation. She estimated that the thing was about to be born. If she went late, she might miss it again as in her previous life. Grandfather C, I will not stay any longer today. I still have some matters to settle, Ye Kanthing said. Just go ahead, Master C replied. Ye Kunthing nodded and left the sea residence after bidding Master C goodbye. Humming along the way, Ye Kunthing arrived at the Dead Leaves Forest. This time, she did not come to the Dead Leaves Forest to distract her thoughts, but to obtain a baby that she missed out in her previous life. Stepping on the soft leaves, Ye Kunthing moved freely in the dense forest. At the back of the forest was a series of tall rolling hills which were like a line that divided heaven and earth. In the past few days, heavy rain showered upon Lin Town, and the steep mountains were greeted with a series of landslides which caused many trees at the foot of the mountain to collapse. The floor was covered with a mix of soil, gravel, dead leaves, and broken branches. It was an utter mess. Lifting the hem of her skirt, Ye Kunthing walked towards the disorderly mountains and stopped in her tracks when she reached a half-buried stone cave. In her previous life, when the Great Elder returned and ordered for Ye Ling and Second Elder to be murdered, Ye Kunthing was also forced to flee for her life and escaped into this Dead Leaves Forest. In the darkness, she fell into the stone cave which was buried by the densely packed trees. After hiding in the cave for many days while enduring the pain and hunger, she finally escaped when she confirmed that the people that the Great Elder sent had left. And it was at the moment when she was fleeing that she saw something for a brief moment. However, she was frail and had problems staying alive then, so naturally, she did not take further notice of it. Yet, it turned out that she missed out on the only treasure which could have changed her destiny in her previous life. In this life, she would not miss it again. Ye Kunthang's lips curled up slightly as she stretched out her fair hands and searched through the messy gravel. After a moment, a shiny and bald egg, which was about the size of a palm, appeared before her eyes. The Great Elder, 1, Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. The egg was very small, and despite being covered with soil, the interlacing blue and white pattern was still visible. Ye Kunthang's eyes glistened when she saw the egg. I finally found you. This was an egg, a dragon egg with a living dragon baby in it. This was a lightning dragon egg that had been buried in the mountains for God knows how many years and was strewn out in the storm in the past few days. Ye Kunthing saw it in her previous life as well, but missed the opportunity to bring it back as she was escaping for her life. When she returned, the dragon egg had died from prostration as it was exposed outside for too long. Many years later, Ye Kunthing once saw a lightning dragon that someone raised, and its ferocity left many speechless. The breeder was only at Martial Chi level 2 but was able to wipe out nearly 10,000 people who encircled him and leave in one piece simply by relying on the violent lightning dragon. Ye Kunthing was extremely regretful at that time. If she had taken the lightning dragon egg away with her in time back then, she would not have ended up being driven to a dead end by Ye Yu and the many people she led. In this life, she would not let the same regret happen again. Ye Kunthing carefully dug the lightning dragon egg out from the soil and carried it in her arms. As long as she managed to successfully hatch and raise the lightning dragon egg, she would have another card in her hand. Little thing, this is a change for both you and me this time around. I won't let you die from prostration before you are even born, Ye Kunthing murmured while stroking the bare egg with a smile. Ye Kunthing kept the dragon egg carefully. There was still some time before the dragon egg would hatch, and in the meantime, it needed to be near a body at all times as a form of incubation using the body heat. Otherwise, if she was even slightly careless, hey, dragon egg would lose its life once again. After finding the dragon egg, Ye Kunthing immediately returned to the Ye residence. Just as she entered the main door, she suddenly felt that the atmosphere became strange. Ye Kunthang's expression changed slightly, and she walked straight to the front hall. In the front hall, Ye Ling was sitting on the chair for the highest ranking position. Other than Ye Ling, an old man with a cold expression was present as well. Tang Tang, you came back at the right time. The Great Elder has just returned today. Ye Kunthing looked at Ye Kunthing helplessly but appeared to sound calm. Ye Kunthing stopped in her tracks and looked towards the Great Elder who was sitting in the hall. When Ye Zun conned Ye Kunthing to leave the Ye residence, it was the Great Elder who personally captured her and allowed his granddaughter, Ye Yu, to snatch Ye Kunthang's spirit root away. It could be said that the Great Elder was the initiator of Ye Kunthang's misery in her past life. Seeing the Great Elder again today, Ye Kunthing was no longer short-tempered like before. She quietly calmed her fluctuating emotions, acting as if there was nothing wrong, and greeted politely, Great Elder. The Great Elder was already over 80 years old. Although all his hair had turned white, he was still sharp and spirited, leading people into believing that he was at most slightly over 50 at first look. His sharp eyes glanced over at Ye Kunthing, and a strange expression flashed across his eyes when he noticed that the birthmark on Ye Kunthang's face had disappeared. However, he did not react much and only nodded briefly. The journey to send little Yu to Yingxiu sect was tough. The Great Elder should rest early, Ye Ling said with a smile, although he raised his guard against the Great Elder. Expressionless, the Great Elder replied, "Thank you for your concern. It is our Ye family's honor for little Yu to be favored by the Yingxiu sect master. I ought to work hard." The Great Elder, 2, Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios, I am quite tired today and will go back to rest first, said the Great Elder coolly as he left on his own without waiting for Ye Ling to respond. After the Great Elder left, Ye Ling finally relaxed. Tang tang. Leave the house less in these few days when the Great Elder is back. When your second uncle ends his seclusion a few days later, we will fetch him together. Ye Ling was filled with concern. His deteriorating health coupled with the second elder's seclusion had allowed the Great Elder to act with increased arrogance in the Ye family. Ye Ling was not a fool. He had faintly sensed the Great Elder's ambitions. However, he was simply unable to fight with the Great Elder now. The only way to deal with the Great Elder was to be submissive temporarily and wait until the second elder ends his seclusion. Now, Ye Ling was most worried about Ye Kunthing. He was very afraid that the Great Elder would secretly take Ye Kunthang's life as she was the successor to the family master position, and thus, he specially warned her. Looking at her extremely worried father, Ye Kunthing naturally sighed. In her heart, she knew that Ye Ling's compromises were all for the sake of ensuring her safety. Even when the Great Elder had usurped Ye Ling's power as the family master in Ye Qingtang's past life, Ye Ling did not resist much, and all of this was for her safety. However, how would her father know that she had already secretly fallen victim to the Great Elder? In her previous life, Ye Kunthing did not dare to tell Ye Ling about the truth behind her stolen spirit root because of He Great Elder's warning. In this life, she was unwilling to let her father have any more worries. I understand. Ye Kunthing nodded obediently. It was only then that Ye Ling was slightly relieved. Quote, "You performed very well at the worship ceremony today. Even I did not expect that you would become this strong. You must be tired already. Go back early and rest. Stay at home and prepare these few days. Everything will be okay once your second uncle ends his seclusion." Okay, Ye Kunthing nodded obediently, but deep down, she was not as relaxed as Ye Ling. Ye Ling had tolerated up to then as he was waiting for the second elder to suppress and control the Great Elder once the second elder ends his seclusion. However, how would the Great Elder not be clear about this? In the previous lifetime, the Great Elder secretly sent people to assassinate Ye Ling one day before the second elder ended his seclusion and made the second elder carry the blame for Ye Ling's death. This allowed the Great Elder to get rid of two people at once, hitting two birds with one stone. This time, Ye Kunthing would definitely not allow the Great Elder's scheme to succeed. At that thought, Ye Kunthing could not help but narrow her eyes as she briskly walked back to her room. The medicine that she prepared for Ye Ling were mixed in his tea on normal days. Those medicines could slowly remove the remaining poison in his body. Perhaps Ye Ling himself had not realized that his complexion these past few days was way better than before. However, this was far from enough. To deal with the Great Elder, Ye Kunthing must have even more preparations in place. Ye Zun returned from the Duan family and not a trace of a smile could be seen on her face. Previously, it was she who secretly told Duan Tianrao about Ye Kunthang's broken spirit root, and she was also the one who hinted to Duan Tianrao that Ye Kunthing was ugly. Yet today, Ye Kunthing had embarrassed her publicly. While Duan Tianrao did not say it, Ye Zun already felt the change in Duan Tianrao's attitude towards her. Ye Kunthing, why do you always have to spoil my plans? Ye Zun took a deep breath quietly, worked to sort out her emotions, and then walked into the Ye residence. When she just entered, she heard news of the Great Elder's return, and her unhappiness vanished into thin air. Instantly, She had long sided with the great elder and was obviously aware of his ambitions. Now that he was back, both Ye Ling and Ye Kanting would not have good days ahead. Assassination. 1. Translator, Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios, the great elder, who wanted the position of the family master, would definitely not allow Ye Kanting to live. At that thought, Ye Zun immediately went to meet the great elder. The great elder, who was sitting in the study room, looked at Ye Zun without any emotions. I didn't know that grandfather was coming home in advance and could not welcome you. It's my bad. Ye Zun sought forgiveness from the great elder. Gently, rise. I didn't think of returning early as well. It's not your fault. The great elder raised his hand slightly to signal for Ye Zun to stand up after curtsying to him. Ye Zun said obediently, grandfather must be tired from the journey. Now that sister you entered Yingxiu sect, her future must be limitless. The great elder was pleased by Ye Zun's words. In the time that I was gone, was Ye Kanting well behaved? She was relatively obedient, and she hadn't told Ye Ling that her spirit root was actually stolen. Ye Zun replied truthfully, not daring to blab. The great elder nodded slightly, but his tone turned cold suddenly. Seems that she knows what's good for her. If she can't watch her mouth, then she can't blame me for being heartless. Looking at the great elder's sinister face, Ye Zun suddenly said, Ye Kanting was obedient regarding the spirit root incident, but during the worship ceremony today, Ye Kanting's abilities were a little weird. Quote, weird? The great elder asked with raised eyebrows. Ye Zun instantly told the great elder everything about Ye Kanting's performance during the worship ceremony. After listening, the great elder's expression turned grim. Connate level 7. Ye Kanting's spirit root is already gone. How was it that her ability was that of a Connate level 7? However, the great elder was not too concerned. Even if Ye Kanting was Connate level 7, she still could not match up to him. What he was truly concerned about was the second elder's ending of seclusion a few days later. In the whole Ye family, only the second elder's abilities were above his. Furthermore, the second elder was extremely supportive of Ye Ling. If the second elder ended his seclusion, it would definitely affect the great elder's scheme to usurp authority. Noted, you may leave first, said the great elder. All right. Ye Zun retreated obediently. Sitting in the study room alone, the great elder narrowed his eyes. There were 2 more days until the second elder's ending of seclusion, and once he returned, the Ye family would completely land in his hands. The great elder sneered and called upon his henchmen at once, go to the east of the city and visit the Keen Luo pavilion for me. Then, the great elder wrote a letter and placed it into the hands of his henchmen. When the henchman understood the meaning of this, he left immediately. Sitting on the chair, the great elder smirked quietly. On the surface, the Keen Luo pavilion was merely an ordinary tea house. But in reality, it was a hidden assassination organization whose leader, Keen Luo, was highly skilled and had many talented underlings. There was no assassination task that Keen Luo was not able to complete. The great elder had ordered someone to go to the Keen Luo pavilion to complete his subsequent scheme. The following night, when it was in the dead of the night, most of the lights in the Ye residence were put out. Ye Ling sat in the study room alone with his eyebrows furrowed. As he looked at the high-quality wine that he had just ordered people to prepare, his tightly pressed lips finally eased a little. The next morning, the second elder would come out from his seclusion. As long as he returned to the Ye family, everything would be stabilized in the Ye family. Ye Ling slowly heaved a sigh as he looked at the wine jug on the table and put off the lights, preparing to return to his bedroom. Assassination. 2. Translator, Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. However, just when Ye Ling exited the study room, he suddenly felt a faint, abnormal breath in the late night wind. Ye Ling's eyes instantly sharpened, and he instinctively held the sword hung on his waist suddenly. There was a movement in the wind, and a few black figures jumped down from the roof of the Ye residence's study room. In the blink of an eye, Ye Ling was surrounded by 4 men in black. I wonder, what business have you come here in the late night for? Ye Ling tried to appear collected, while silently sweeping his gaze over the courtyard, only to find that there was not a single Ye family guard at the door of the courtyard where they were usually supposed to be at. Other than himself, there were only the 4 uninvited men in the huge courtyard. Are you the Ye family? Master, Ye Ling? Asked the leader of the group. Yes, that's me, Ye Ling replied. The leader's eyes sharpened. Making eye contact with his partners beside him, the four men took out their swords at the same time and stabbed towards Ye Ling without any word. Alarmed, Ye Ling immediately took out his sword to fight them. In the blink of an eye, the sharp light from the four swords struck at him. Like the stars sparkle, the four men were highly skilled. Even if Ye Ling's abilities had not declined, it would still be hard to fend off them. Furthermore, Ye Ling's abilities had reduced greatly over the years, and he was simply not on the same level as the other four. Shortly, he was already dripping with cold sweat. The leader of the black-clothed men suddenly sent Ye Ling flying. With a kick, Ye Ling landed on the floor with a heavy thud as he saw the four men attacking towards him and thought that he was going to die there and then. But just as the four swords were about to pierce through his chest, a light flashed across the Ye residence. A sharp clatter followed, and the black-clothed men's swords were directly deflected by that bolt of cold light. Then, a figure flew from the top of the courtyard walls and stood in front of Ye Ling. Ye Ling took a clear look of the person and astonishment filled him. Tang Tang, leave, don't care about me. Ye Ling did not think that his own daughter would suddenly appear there. The four men were far stronger than he, and even if Ye Kunthing was at Kanate level 7, she definitely would not be able to win against them. Ye Kunthing wore a cold expression as she stood beside Ye Ling. Under the moonlight, her cold and empty gaze swept across the four murderous men before her. Little girl, do you wish to die? The leader of the four men frowned as he looked at Ye Kunthing, who suddenly appeared, with a deep and murderous intention. Ye Kunthing stood rooted in front of Ye Ling without moving an inch. In her previous life, it was this night that her father was assassinated in the residence by the killers sent by the Great Elder. How could she let the tragedy repeat now that she was reborn? However, Ye Kunthing did not strike. She was understood clearly that she was not these four men's opponent at all given her current ability. Then, Ye Kunthing suddenly said, you all wish to take my father's life merely because you all accepted someone's money and are acting under their orders. I know who hired you, but I wonder, how much did they pay for you all to actually disregard the Ye family's reputation and directly enter the Ye residence to assassinate someone? Little girl, what has the price others paid got to do with you? Since you know our intention of coming and now that you are here, it's just your bad luck. However, Ye Kunthing replied, Keen Luo Pavilion's price must be pretty high to be able to hire you, the pavilion master, and your 3 highly skilled underlings. I guess it must have cost more than 10,000 gold. Assassination. 3. Translator, Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. Ye Kunthang's words indeed stumped the four men. The four of them came masked. So how did that girl know their identity? Let me guess the exact amount of this high price. Is it 10,000? Ye Kunthing said with a smile. The four people from the Kim Luo pavilion narrowed their eyes. Although they did not confirm verbally, their silence gave Ye Kunthing an answer. Ye Kunthing smiled and continued. It really is 10,000? I didn't think that the great elder of the Ye family would be so petty to give you all only 10,000 gold. The great elder of the Ye family? The four men initially thought that Ye Kunthing was stalling time on purpose, but they did not expect that. Not only did Ye Kunthing point out their identity, but she even knew that the person who hired them was the great elder of the Ye family. At that instant, the four men's reactions turned slightly weird. Little thing, what do you actually want to say? The leader asked coldly. Ye Kunthing replied, nothing much. I just think that given the capabilities of the four of you, a reward of 10,000 may be a bit too low. Isn't the great elder's payment of only 10,000 gold a look down on your abilities? How about this? I'll give you 40,000 gold to get rid of the great elder. The four men were startled by Ye Kunthang's words. 40,000 gold? Wasn't that 4 times the price the great elder offered? The four men exchanged glances and did not easily believe Ye Kunthang's suggestions. Their leader said, young lady Ye, I know your identity. However, don't take us as fools and trick us. We are very clear of the situation in the Ye family. Given you and your father's position in the Ye family, I'm afraid you don't even have 10,000, much less 40,000. Ye Ling, who was behind Ye Kunthing, was on his guard as well. He merely took Ye Kunthang's actions as an act of stalling time, and knew that the man's words were true. With his and Ye Kunthang's situation, there was simply no way to get 40,000 gold. However, Ye Kunthang gave a faint smile. After looking at them in the eyes, she took out bars of gold from her space ring and placed them in front of the four men. In the blink of an eye, a total of 20,000 gold bars were stacked before the four men. Under the moonlight, the gold bars sparkled in brilliance and blinded the four men's eyes. Although the Keen Luo Pavilion had taken on quite a few cases, the rewards were at most a few thousand gold. The offer of 10,000 gold by the great elder of the Ye family was already the highest paying request they accepted in recent years. Yet, unexpectedly, young Lady Ye offered such a high amount, and was really able to pay it. There is 20,000 here. Treat it as my deposit. As long as you get rid of the great elder of the Ye family, I will automatically pass you the remaining 20,000. Ye Kunthang looked up at the four hesitant men. In her previous life, she did not know about the great elder's scheme and did not have enough money to buy over these assassins. But now, everything was different. She wanted the great elder to have a taste of his own medicine and to experience how it felt to be targeted by hired assassins. Initially, the four assassins were little hesitant. However, seeing so much gold piled in front of them, they exchanged glances at once. A shrewd expression flashed across the leader's eyes as he faked a heavy tone. The Keen Luo Pavilion has its own rules. Since we accepted the order, how could we change it so casually? If this goes out, wouldn't it ruin the Keen Luo Pavilion's reputation? The leader said, but his words had much less murderous assassination. 4. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Ye Kunthang smiled. I am aware of the Keen Luo Pavilion's rules and respect all of you. If you help me to get rid of the great elder and assist my father in regaining his authority, the Ye family will remember this favor and will definitely return it in the future. How can this return of favor be measured with merely 10,000 gold? Ye Kunthang's words stumped the four men. The Ye family was one of three greatest family clans in Lin Town, and its possessions were unfathomable to the three great family clans. 10,000 gold was indeed just a drop in the bucket. They merely had a monetary deal with the great elder, but if they took on Ye Kunthang's request, not only were they able to get 40,000 gold, but the Ye family would also owe them a favor in the future. What they could earn in and out was not just a tiny amount. Instantly, the four people from the Keen Luo Pavilion weighed the pros and cons quickly. When they turned to look at Ye Kunthang, the murderous intent in their eyes before was replaced with a smile. We understand what young Lady Ye means. We'll accept your request! ! Rest assured, since we accepted your request, we'll carry out your order. The black-clothed men, who were initially out to kill Ye Kunthang, were now full of smiles as though they changed their faces. I'll trouble you all, then. The Ye family won't forget your help today, Ye Kunthang said. With cupped fists, rest assured Lady Ye, we will get rid of the great elder now. Then, the four men left together and headed for their new target, the sinister great elder of the Ye family. After the four of them left, Ye Ling, who had been beside Ye Kunthang this whole time, finally opened his mouth. Tang Tang, you. Ye Ling looked at his daughter with a weird expression. He originally thought that he would definitely die today, but unexpectedly, Ye Kunthang was actually able to turn the situation around and even got the great elder in a fix. Don't worry, father. I'll never allow anyone to harm you ever again. Looking at Ye Ling, who was safe and sound, she felt the guilt from her previous life fading away. I know that the great elder has evil intentions and was plotting to snatch the position of the family master away, but I did not expect he would actually be this vicious and hire someone to take my life. Ye Ling frowned as a mix of emotions surged within him. Quote, the great elder is far more evil than others. Since second uncle is ending his seclusion tomorrow, he was deeply afraid that second uncle and you would join forces. Thus, he wanted to get rid of you in advance, Ye Kunthang said. Ye Ling sighed and shook his head. The four people from the Keen Luo Pavilion were strong, but the great elder isn't weak himself. Plus there are many guards around him. I'm afraid. Just as Ye Ling's words left his mouth, a noisy hubbub was suddenly heard in the courtyard, and a faint smell of blood diffused in the wind. Ye Ling and Ye Kunthang exchanged glances and headed towards the courtyard immediately. Fighting sounds came directly from the courtyard that the great elder stayed in. Outside the courtyard laid many dead bodies, and the guards that were originally guarding outside the great elder's courtyard had all died. To be able to kill so many people around the great elder in such a short time, the people from the Qinluo pavilion are indeed skilled. The more Ye Ling looked, the more fearful he became. Had Ye Kangting not rushed there in time, the person lying in a pool of blood would have been him. Ye Kangting took a look and did not say anything. Just as she was about to enter the courtyard with Ye Ling, she suddenly saw the miserable-looking great elder flying away from a side of the courtyard. The people behind the great elder initially wanted to chase after him but slowly stopped in their tracks upon seeing Ye Kangting.